This is the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. That's a brand new mic stand, brand new microphone, no, he's got the new headphones. So there you go. I balanced it out. I balanced it. Yeah, you got the broke ones. I'm trying to tell you something. No, here we are. Welcome to this episode of the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. Let me turn off this crazy phone. And as you see today, I have two guests here live. Eddie Murphy and Bill Burr couldn't make it, so I got the next best.
I thought you were going to misrepresent us for a second.
Not the first time I've been called Eddie.
No, maybe not. No, but I really am glad that you guys are here. This is something that we've been talking about doing. I can't remember which one of you mentioned it first, that I should have both of you here. I think maybe both of you mentioned it at some point.
It was after he had been on.
Yeah, maybe it was you who said something after Anthony had been on.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad to have you guys here. Now, you guys are fresh off of some live comedy last night.
Yeah.
Where were you guys? Tell me about where you were and how did it go?
We're at Salt. Salt has this Oslo Humor Fest this week, right? Wednesday.
What does that stand for, by the way?
Salt?
Yeah.
I think it's just the name. It's down by the bay.
Is it salty?
Yeah.
Am I overthinking it?
They're big on saunas. Yeah. Like the stage we did yesterday was actually a sauna.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's actually a huge sauna, and it's just, you're looking, the audience is sitting up, which was weird because I've never done a stage where the audience is sitting above me, right? Most of the time, the audience, you're on the stage, not they are on the stage. It was an amphitheater vibe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Really good fun. Haven't done a lot of sets this year. This is my second set this year, actually. So it was really good fun.
What the heck is wrong with your...
It's Anthony's
microphone?
Register. It's always a bit tricky, man.
I know. I always need more tweaking than...
Let's see. Let me do this.
Special.
You need to use your Chappelle white voice. That'll hit the register.
Wait. Hello.
There you go.
Can you hear me now when I use my Chappelle white voice?
I'm going to get this right. But I'm not going to edit this out either. People are going to see this. Oh, yeah, condenser. That's not a condenser mic. That's a dynamic mic. Give me a test.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's much
better. Barry White,
that's
ladies and gentlemen.
Greetings. Awa process.
There we go.
Very nice.
While we're at it, I'm just going to check out yours.
See if I'm as suave as I can be.
Oh, you're as smooth as they come, my brother. No, okay, so SALT that's just the name of it. I always wonder, what does that stand for? But I guess I'm overthinking it. I'm looking for reason where there is none.
There often is none.
But yeah, they've been doing a humor festival. I think it started on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And is today the last night?
I think today's the last night.
Yeah.
If I remember right, every night so far has been a full house.
Yeah.
So you guys have gotten a lot of exposure then.
I was only on last night. I would have liked to probably do more, but I was away.
Oh, I thought you guys had a couple of nights.
No. There's the other guys, like Espen and them, the Latte Vaccina guys. They were there all week, so they had a great.
Maybe that's who I was thinking. Yeah, it was Espen and Inia.
Yeah,
exactly.
Those guys.
Yeah. They were doing a couple of I think the same stage we did, the Challengers, and then they did the Latte Vaccina thing.
Okay, because there's several different stages.
Yeah, I think there was like 5 stages. I think it was.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So we were at the second smallest stage. So it could fit 80 people, but yesterday it's because of COVID it was down to 40. So exposure's not that crazy. It's like a jammed house at Steinosh, I guess.
But you know what? Those smaller crowds sometimes are better.
Yeah.
Well, not better. It's different, but it's different in a good way. You can get more. It's just more intimate.
I think it depends on sort of I kind of. It sounds cliche, but Sting goes like music is his own reward, and I think stand up is the same way. Like I did a set at Uhurt where it was like 12. It felt like 12 people. Probably more.
Oh, same as me.
Yeah, but it felt like 12 people and also because it was at the height of the Corona rules. So it was like that table there, that table there, that table there.
Now
they had
that's
to have
a little
that mandatory space between them. And I loved it. I had a great time, and I was like looking at them right in their eye. And, okay, you're laughing. Okay, you're laughing. It's a lot more fun. Yeah,
you can take the time to check on every 5 tables. But I was gonna say that it's so good if you got a host who knows how to play up the bunker atmosphere and be like, all right, so that's
true. It's very host dependent.
Most of the world is missing out on this. You guys are lucky. If you can flip that shit.
So there are different stages now. Are there any I don't know, criteria, or are there any rules about who gets to go on what stage, or is it totally random? What's the deal with that?
I actually don't know.
You guys weren't discriminated against.
I opened for
Anthony.
Vigo. I don't know if you know Vigo Venn. I'm a big fan of Vigo Venn.
I know who he is. I would love to meet that guy.
He's great. He's a lot of fun. I mean, his energy's always sky high, right? And he closed our stage, and I was right before him. So for me, I was opening for Vigo Venn. As far as I'm concerned, I'm moving up in the world.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
But I'm assuming it's just about, okay, how many people do we think we can cram in? Our show was called The Challengers, Utfordrerne. So it's meant to be like, oh, we're challenging the status quo in stand-up.
Right, and it was upcoming new people, and so upcoming. What was it actually said so on the
Up and coming.
on the event that you sent me.
I saw a poster.
description,
Yeah, they had some word for yeah.
And I was like, oh, so they already know.
Now, you do your act in English, right?
Yeah, I do act.
Do you feel comfortable with that, or do you
definitely.
sometimes
I feel
think, oh my gosh, I'm kind of on the outside?
No, hell no,
Yeah.
no.
No worries about that.
Obviously, I'm on stage, so I'm already on the outside, right? I mean, like, it's kind of like, it comes to the territory, yeah.
But do you find it? Do you find sometimes that it's an extra challenge because you have to think now? How are they? We can play on words on English that you can't in Norwegian. Do you ever worry about that?
But I've sort of like been most of my friends from an early age have always been like the ESL crowd, so I've always sort of been like structuring for this ESL crowd kind of vibe.
So they're kind of
you know what I mean?
Same wavelength.
Yeah. Perhaps if I was doing a set with like more native speakers, where I could perhaps talk more quickly or use more sort of more pop culture references that are sort of perhaps more purely from their neck of the woods, maybe.
Right.
But like I guess in Oslo, I'll do more sort of like local references. I guess if I do references.
If you get out among the hillbillies, that
I haven't gone that far yet. Like I did Bergen. We did Bergen 3 weeks ago. That was as far as I've gone to do stand up in Norway, right? And that was an English night. It was mostly expats in the crowd, I think, university students.
I think it was a healthy mix, but it was a fair few expats and stuff.
Yeah. So in other words, it always fits to do it in English. I've never felt uncomfortable. I guess from time to time I get slightly uncomfortable in the sense that something that I thought would go over, it doesn't go over because of the language. But then that's just a matter of thinking on your feet and being good at what you do and just rewording it.
I haven't really felt uncomfortable, but then again, like, I'm a bit like, it's. I think it's a bit also like it's the mindset thing. It's like I'm an open micer. I'm definitely supposed to be a little bit delusional at this stage. I suck too much.
All open micers are delusional.
It's a necessity.
I suck too much to be going on just pure pure feedback.
Right? There has to be some delusion to it. I think
there has to be some delusion.
I think it's Mike Bogart.
But how long do you have to do it before you're no longer a newbie? How long do you have to do this before you're no longer an open micer?
So
what's the facet for that?
Seinfeld says there's 4 levels to comedy. First one is making your friends laugh. Second one is making strangers laugh. Third one is making strangers laugh for money. And if you can do that and pay your bills, then you're good. And the fourth one is when they start talking like you.
If you can do that and pay your bills. Okay, Seinfeld, but if that's the level you have to get at to be able to call yourself a true comedian.
No,
isn't that a little?
That's not. He says there are 4 levels to it. There are 4 levels to it, and the fourth level is people start talking like you.
Yes, there you go.
Did you ever notice?
And everybody has a Seinfeld impression.
But I think success. Everybody defines their own success. I think. But
that's true. It's very individual.
But as a general. I think if you feel like a comic and you've done enough stages, people will give it to you.
Yeah.
Actually, that's one of the things I found astounding when I first started doing stand-up was just how quickly people would be. I expected them to be like, "Oh, you're coming here and trying to get stage time. You're not a real comic yet." And I thought they would be like closed like that, but people are so quick to be like, "Oh, you've gone on stage? Okay, you're a comic."
To me, once you've written your material and you've gone on the mic and you've performed it, you're a comic.
So
you may be very inexperienced. You may not be very good at it, but you've jumped in the water. You're there now.
What's our host's last name? Marius
Torkelsen.
Yeah, I was talking to Marius Torkelsen yesterday, just before going on, because he was hosting and he's epic. He's been doing it forever.
Yeah, he's on Lotta and stuff
he's
like
on
that.
Lotta and whatnot. And we were saying that the first time you go on and you talk to your friends about the experience, they understand. You went up and did got some stage time. It was fun or whatnot. The 10th time you go on stage, your friends don't understand. what that was.
Why you get so...
You're not a civilian anymore at that point.
Right.
You can't have that same conversation.
No.
They won't get what that was for you after the 10th time. After the 100th time, you can only talk to other comedians about it.
That's true. It's a very insular world.
Yeah.
It's kind of like cops.
Yeah.
If you're not a cop,
you just don't know.
what do you do? Why are you talking?
You're a civilian. You don't get it.
You have a certain kind of way of tackling life. You have a certain way of speaking. You have that humor.
Yes.
I feel like comics maybe have to write up if they discharge a slur.
You know what? Let's write that. Let's write that in the rule book.
Yeah.
Man. So you guys had a good time last night?
I had a great time. I had a lot of fun.
I had a bit of a bummer.
Why? What happened, man?
Well, it's a bit of a weird room. It's sauna. It's really warm.
Yeah.
And it's really like steep up it's very steep and you're at the bottom and stuff. So it feels like a weird room to begin with. And I just kind of felt like I could.
It's like stadium seat, like theater seating.
Yeah. You're at the bottom and they're progressively.
Okay, that explains that photo. I saw a photo on Instagram of Joachim.
Yeah.
And he was looked like
Yeah.
somebody was hanging from the rafters.
You're in a pit,
Okay.
pleading for your life. But
Exactly.
Makes it easier. They get more momentum when they throw rotten tomatoes at you.
yeah. But I just compared to Bergen a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I just felt like that could have gone better. So, but it's fun. It was fun.
Well,
That's what it looks like.
Okay, look at that.
Yeah.
That's different.
Right?
Yeah, but you know what? That would be inspiring for me. I would be so.
Show the viewers.
I would be so.
I don't know if you guys can see it.
We can post it.
We can post that.
We can post it. I would be so caught up on the weirdness, the newness of a scene like that.
Yeah.
That would motivate me. That would stimulate my artist brain.
Oh yeah.
And it would make me,
I tried opening with just recognizing that and being like, God damn, I wish I brought one of those airplane, pillows for your neck.
Yeah.
No reaction. And I was like, all right,
is it in the round? I couldn't really tell from the pictures, or they're kind of in front.
They're
Right
in
in
front. They're
But
right in
it's-
front.
Man, that's different.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah. I definitely I wasn't as comfortable as I've been on other stages. Like compared to say 3 weeks ago in Bergen, where I was like, "Oh, this is hey, how you guys doing?" I felt really no pressure on stage. I felt a lot of pressure on stage yesterday for some reason.
Did you?
Yeah, I felt I was like, ooh.
But doesn't
We
that
also
come
just
and
had
go?
5 minutes though.
Doesn't that come and go? Sometimes you feel comfortable, sometimes you
you
don't,
don't,
but there's
yeah.
really no reason for it.
Yeah.
I had a harder time working through, but then again, I had a lot less rest and so on.
But you know what I found out is I live basically, and I'm not saying I eat clean all the time, but I live basically a fasting lifestyle, eating pretty much within a very constricted time window every day. And what I found out is if I'm fasted, if I haven't eaten for 18 plus hours, I perform better.
Oh,
Really?
Whereas if I eat within a couple hours before I go on the mic, I notice it just sitting here at my own home in my own studio on my own podcast. If I eat bore I go on my podcast, I'm kind of...
everybody does better when they're hungry, right?
When they're hungry. He said hungry, people. He didn't say hungry. He said hungry.
Yeah, I'm
That's
getting
like
that
southern. That's a
secondhand soul.
There's a
for you guys.
southern soul man in Eirik here. No, but there's I think that the physiological self is definitely connected to the mental and emotional self.
obviously.
Oh yeah, no
Absolutely.
doubt. No doubt.
So yeah, if I'm fasted, I'm quicker, I'm more focused. It's just a better experience for me.
So my day yesterday was I went to started on.
You didn't fast, did you?
Yeah, no. Well, I did, but differently. Like I was in Switzerland. I was in Switzerland seeing some friends, and we were partying.
Yesterday you were in Switzerland.
Yeah, the day before.
Okay.
The day before. So I got
You
back-
started the day yesterday in Switzerland.
Yeah, I started the day in Switzerland at 5 a.m. Hopped on a train to Zurich.
Just hanging out with friends, or was there a
My
stand-up?
sister lives there.
Okay. Yeah,
I was
you
on
told me that,
vacation. Yeah, I was on vacation. So I cut a train at 5 a.m. 5:45. Zurich around 8:30. Flew to Oslo for 12:50. Ro testing at Gardermoen is crazy. So that took about 3 hours. I got out of the airport at like 4 o'clock, and I got home and I'm completely tired. I'm low on energy. The airplane food was terrible, and I just rushed straight home. I poured myself like a protein shake with some smoothie. mango berry smoothie mix.
Yeah.
Chug that, coffee, shot of rum, and we take a cab down. Right? And so it's like, okay, now it's time to.
So you didn't
do a
really get
show.
to take a breath.
No,
You
not
just kinda
really.
just-
Not really.
yeah.
Yeah, and then I sort of got to prep at the backstage for like an hour.
Well, that
So-
helped to not have to jump on the mic right away. You gotta.
Yeah, it helped that I was going on second last.
Okay. Yeah. Do you like going on first or last?
I'd rather be last, yeah. First one, it depends on the host, but the first one has to kind of get the crowd going a bit. That can be tough.
If I'm not last, I'm gonna get angry at whoever is last.
I'm going to make it hard for you.
Yeah, that'd be my point.
But isn't there some kind of status with being the closer? I'm closing.
Yeah,
tonight.
exactly.
There is.
But opening too is like, okay, I trust you to get the room going. You know, there's certain spots there it's just like, okay, you're somebody I can trust to do this right.
I guess if it's like an open micer night, it doesn't really
not so
matter.
much.
But if you're opening for a heavyweight, if you're an open, that's an honor. Actually.
I
feel honored anyway.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I think.
Shout out to Babek Namati and Zahid Ali. Yeah, yeah. I opened for probably. And I go back and forth. I think I told you that my best night was when I opened for Zahid.
Yeah,
I think I told you. I think I told you that it was, my best night was with Babek, but that thing for me of being elevated, and I called it an elevation and an honor when somebody like that asks you to open for them.
Yeah.
And I just jump into that challenge, feet first, man, ready to go. I got to perform now.
Yeah.
It's different than if you're just on an open mic. You guys feel the difference?
I mean, I'm really only doing open mics, right? So I have yet to make the leap. I mean, again, like I do this very much as a hobby, right? Because my day job is so demanding. So
I really wonder how you have the time. Really, how do you have the time and the mental space? I mean, that's a heck of a job.
It's often that the stand-up really is kind of like a way to like just switch brain states.
Ah, okay.
It's just really good. It's something completely different.
I see.
And it's a nice way to like, okay, now I'm rested, right? Now I can go.
Now you can play.
Look,
now it's fun time.
Yeah, now it's fun times. Yeah.
Yeah. And you, Mister.
It's very easy for me to find the time.
No, I was thinking more about the thing because you've been an opener and you've been an open micer.
I've not opened. I've not had. Well, the only time I did opening was kind of like at Steiner's show. It's like, all right, you can warm up the crowd a bit before you.
Yeah.
But I've never had anybody be like, hey, could you open for me?
Okay.
Yeah. Yet.
Yet.
But I find that, I don't know, the pressure that there's, okay, this isn't just something people are showing up for. It's also mitigated by the fact that when people pay, they're invested, so they're more likely to laugh.
That's a heck of a pressure.
Yeah.
These people paid money now.
And they pay, but they pay attention too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas if it's just an open mic, it's just like, oh, we were just here for a drink and an open mic broke out.
And there's a big difference. Yeah. We had a what do they call that? Drum and B festival.
Yeah.
Like a city festival where they just opened up all of the venues all over town and everything was open till like 2 a.m. and people could come and go. You didn't have to pay. And there was a club here in Drummond that opened the doors, and the comedy club, the Drummond Comedy Club, we did just a series of sets. So you had a crowd that was like, okay, I'll see what this stand-up stuff is all about.
Yeah.
And people were just sitting there like, just about no matter who. I think Bobek killed.
Yeah.
But everybody else, the crowd, some of them were literally like,
looking like
this.
a card that's
Like,
a dog that's been showing a card trick.
That's the worst night I ever had, man. Nothing I had to say worked. And that told me that, the material might be solid, but if the crowd isn't a comedy crowd, and of course, as a comic, you always have that responsibility to make them laugh. But it's just an extra challenge in a situation like that. They weren't there. They weren't educated about what stand-up comedy is.
I'm a bit of an absolutist about that. It's not their fault.
Yeah. No, it's not. You have to. It taught me a lesson that as a comic, I've got to be ready for whatever crowd is there. It doesn't matter. I've got a responsibility.
Actually, the guy who closed yesterday, he's kind of the ultimate proof that's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That
Vigo is a goat.
Yeah, he's technically a clown, right?
Yeah.
And I had no respect for clowns before I met him. But then it turns out.
And now you do?
Now he can get me rolling with peekaboo. Yeah. At one point, he just fucking he said something that was like a punchline, and then he ran out. just ran out.
ran out.
Yeah, and Marius Torkelsen, the host, he was just kind of looking. He's kind of like, "Do I go up now?" And,
I love it.
and then just after a while, you saw him come around at the back.
This is like an Andy Kaufman type of thing.
Yeah, there's a glass window out, and he's coming there, and he's like, "Ooh," sucking on the window, and people outside too who did not know what was going on inside that venue. Yeah. All of a sudden, they were part of it, going woo because he riled them up.
That's my kind of
that
comedy.
Guy is just contagious as
that
well.
That guy just doesn't care.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. He's great.
Yeah, and
interesting.
His energy level is through the roof. Like it's through the roof. By the time
is he on Instagram? I like to see what this guy's doing. He sounds like the kind of guy who puts a lot of sketches up.
We're going to see him tonight. He's doing this thing called Fred Talks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ideas not worth spreading.
Yeah.
So,
I
gotta check this guy out.
We got 2 tickets to that. We're gonna go see it tonight.
Okay.
Actually, one of the funniest things I've seen was I think it's from he was in Edinburgh. He was doing the Fringe Festival and stuff. He's done that a few years, and there was this thing where he's basically in his big spandex like a weird superhero. And doing the stage show, and at one point he's going around with this frame that it says "Kiss Cam" under it, right? And he's holding it around the audience.
How do I find this guy on Instagram? I need to hook up with him right away.
But anyway, he's holding up this Kiss Cam square, right? And then at one point he holds it in front of this woman, and then he thrusts his crotch into the frame, and the crowd dies. And then a second later, of course, he's
What's his name? Vigo. Vigo Venn. There he is.
Vigo friend.
You know what? I'm already following him.
Of course you are.
Somebody had already told me about this guy, apparently. Let me turn on all of my notices for all of his... There we go.
Yeah, no, that guy's a
first Norwegian on the moon, it says here.
Check
him out, people.
I buy it. No, Vigo's amazing. Lots of energy.
I love stand-up, but God, I miss it. Yeah. This is why this is so nice to have both of you in here. A double shot of comedy because I miss it.
Yeah.
I haven't been capable of doing it for now over a year.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of watching from the fringes and just kind of wishing.
Getting jealous?
Quite the opposite. I think it's I've been enjoying the success and the happiness of you guys. Yeah. Seeing Ania James and people like Joachim and others hitting the road.
Yeah.
Not just doing a gig here and there, but they hit the road.
I've been so jealous of them.
Joachim has been doing a good. I should have been on that tour. He asked me to go with him.
Oh, really?
Joachim, my kitty.
Oh, word.
Oh, for real.
But I can't, this shoulder, then the neck surgery and all that stuff.
They didn't ask me. I'm just saying for the record.
Hey, man,
I wasn't asked.
I feel jilted too. It's not because you're black.
I was like, I wasn't asked.
No, it is. There's only room for one black. Okay?
Wait, are you talking about?
I barely let him come on this podcast. Okay, there's only room for one. No, but Joachim asked me if I wanted to join that, and I almost said yes, but I just knew if I can't, I just can't. I would have made it through maybe 1 or 2 shows, and then I would have had to quit. So
there's also only room for one barrel-chested man in that van. I think you and Anya, that'd be a tough squeeze.
That guy's like a...
And Joachim, too.
That guy's a jiu-jitsu. What is it, jiu-jitsu he does?
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu, yeah. And he looks so calm and friendly, but he'd end up tying you up in a pretzel if you ever got in a...
Yeah, no, he's a weird one. He's got all these vicious jokes, too, but he's just such a sweetheart underneath. You just know it's not coming from a mean place. Yeah.
I love him, yeah. I want to get him here in the studio, too. I've had him on twice, I think.
Oh, really?
I've had him on twice, I believe.
I heard the one where you were talking to him, at least, about the his schooling in New Zealand and stuff like that.
I think I had that one, and then I had another one about, we were talking about cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Or was that all in the same episode? I don't know.
I think it was the same one because I've been following you. You haven't had him on twice.
Am I supposed to know these things? I don't. Okay. Yeah.
Do you have an agent or manager?
Obviously, I need one. Obviously, I need one.
You're too big already.
No, but he's a great guy. I think I think there's a lot of elements to Enia that people haven't really discovered yet. I think he's got that financial wizardry, with the cryptocurrency. He's got his stand-up. He's got his filmmaking. He's doing this jiu-jitsu thing.
Yeah.
He's a multifaceted guy.
Yeah. It's always nice to people. I'm always inspired by seeing people sort of pursue things that aren't just sort of the traditional route or the traditional job, and they're
they're choosing how they suffer. You know, like everybody's gonna. This is like this book I'm reading is like everybody's going to suffer at something.
Yes.
We all suffer, right? Sure. But few of us choose why we suffer. Right?
That's a good observation. That's a good observation.
Choose why we suffer. Like you choose to go and squat 3 of me or 4 of me on each side of the plate. 5. Okay. I weigh 80.
Do the math.
120 on each side, right?
4.5 of you.
God damn. God damn. Right? But you choose to sort of give up that time, and you choose how you suffer.
Self-imposed suffering, yeah.
Yeah, you choose how you suffer. I go to the gym 5 a.m. in the morning because I want a certain level of fitness.
You get in early.
Yeah, I get in early. I choose how I suffer. My career takes tons of time from me, right? But it's leading somewhere, and I choose how I suffer.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great observation. I'll say this: not everyone chooses how they suffer, but everyone can choose.
Everyone should
how they
choose.
suffer. They should, absolutely. And I'm a proponent of self-imposed hardship because I put everything in a training frame of mind. When you train, the heavier you train squat, the more your body has to adjust. Exactly. The more prepared it will be for that larger burden to come.
Yes, that larger stimuli.
And that can be applied to life in general, I believe. And I almost want to say shame on those who don't have that similar outlook on life, because you can get so much more out of life, and I don't think there's anything egotistical about that.
Pain and suffering are not a bug; they're a feature.
Exactly, and the whole thing about getting more out of life. I don't think there's anything capitalistic or egotistic about that, because the more you get out of life, the better prepared you are for challenges, and the more challenges you take upon yourself, the stronger you're going to be, and that's going to put you in a better position, not just for yourself, but for your friends and family.
Yeah, and we were talking about this earlier, that I feel like it's this world of mass exceptionalism where everything we see is from sort of the extreme end of human experience. The 99.999% of the most epic feats, the greatest thing someone's done today, the best place someone's been to today.
But what about the common person and their struggle?
Yeah, but most of life is really mundane and boring, and not extraordinary.
The common person out in the street has the same struggles as that exceptional athlete or that exceptional business person. Yeah. It's just personalized. It's their struggle.
In fact, this author Mark Manson, it was going on about how he would argue that there's no such thing as a personal problem. Everybody's problems are the same. There's no unique problems. There's no such thing as a personal problem.
What makes things unique is your perception of it, right? Yeah. Your way of dealing with it. But you're right. There's no way I can come across a problem in my life that you absolutely cannot come across in your life.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
And I think it's important to recognize, at least in oneself, that problems are going to be there, but what I do about them is the only thing that's changing. Like the default shouldn't be that I don't have problems. The default's that I'm ready to solve my problems, because I will always have problems.
Does all this philosophy make you tired in your friendship? You're quite the philosopher. You're quite the philosopher also.
Yeah, sure. I never recovered from my existential crisis at 12.
So it's been a never-ending psychological.
It's hard to climb the life ladder when you don't see the importance of it. Like, in the end, I'm not a nihilist, but it's like it's hard to buy into the way life and the world is structured. So much of it is bullshit and absurd, and it's so hard to buy into it when you feel like there's no point.
Are you a cynic?
Yeah, definitely. I'm also an optimist, though. I do. Problem is, I want to do this into a bit. My problem is I keep meeting these smart girls who are really smart in fields that crush all hope. Like, in 2009, I was with this girl who was about to start a PhD in climate change, right? So she kind of gave me the little rundown on just how we're fucked, how fucked are we, and blah, 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 right?
But it was worse than I thought. Do you want to hear that at the start of a relationship?
That is, when I'm flooded with love chemicals, that's the best time. Don't tell me when I'm jaded and when we're down to just hand jobs. Give me it when it's, But anyway.
Tell me at the beginning.
Anyway, she laid that on me, and it was like, okay, I'm reeling. Anyway, and then she laid that on me, and I was reeling from that a bit. Yeah. And then later on, I met my soon-to-be wife at that point. now divorced, but she had a master's degree in social psychology.
Oh God.
Which, I don't know if you guys know, but basically that field was started so people could show, how could the Nazis do what they did? And then they proved we're all good little Germans down there, right? And her take is essentially humanity's fucked. We're not going to get our act together. And there's so much good evidence for that in social psychology as to why we can't turn shit around.
Yeah, but that's a view that says there's more ugly in the world than beauty, and I don't get on with that.
No,
I can't dig that. That's.
No, it's well worth saving. But my issue is that there's a handful of people who are mortgaging the future and running us off a cliff, and not just us. We're in the 6th extinction event in the history of the planet. We're now tantamount to a fucking meteor. That's humanity.
Now that's true. You have these elitists. I mean, it's very evident in the United States. With the previous administration, that you've got this gang of elitists who are just doing as they please, and it's not to the benefit of the common man and woman on the street.
And I think the worst thing is it's not just mustache twirling bad guys. It's systemic, right? It's like if you don't maximize profit for your shareholders, you're being derelict in your duties, right? That's right. An actual thing. You can be prosecuted for not maximizing your fucking,
Oh, sorry.
You get a
profits.
It's my coffee.
Coffee.
I'm sharing with you, pal, not you sharing with me. Okay.
I'm corporate, so I don't want to say anything.
That's good. Thank you.
I will.
Oh yeah, this guy's the enemy. This guy.
I will.
Yeah. Profits are bad.
We are an odd couple. Chocolate, vanilla, poor, fucking on his way to be rich.
But look, I don't think there's people speak about the current state of the world in such absolutes. In other words, you have this faction who will say things are bad.
Yep.
There's nothing we can do. How about things are bad, but there's also a lot of good? We actually have less war, less armed conflict going on in the world today than we've ever had before.
I have a feeling
not ever before, but I don't know, since the past whenever.
You don't think that'll increase when we have climate refugees coming from?
Of course it will. Of course it will. But again,
when water is more scarce.
Yeah, but again, there's these people out there that will say things are horrible, and let's just prepare for doomsday. What about things are horrible? What are we going to do about it? There's still hope.
Actually, I was going to say, seeing as he was talking about being Mr. Corporate over here, I will speak up for the corporate class a little bit, because hedge fund managers and stuff around the world are now going okay, you guys are fucking up our bottom line if you keep doing this brinksmanship. So they're starting to be you're going to have to divest into green before we start backing things again. And you even see things it's greenwashing to a certain extent, but BP and whatnot.
But green does not ruin the bottom line necessarily.
So, no. But he's talking about if you do choices that prolong our dependency on fossil fuels, and that makes the planet less likely to, be good for us, right?
Yeah. Okay.
That's a bad investment as far as they're concerned. That's fucking up their bottom line. So they're flipping the script now.
It should be good business sense to not want to, I don't know, kill your food. If you're a vampire, you have to go to sleep every 1,000 years so that the humanity can recover.
Actually, I played a video game once, and you came. It's like Elder Scrolls Skyrim, and you come across this infestation of vampires, and you can read their books where they're talking about sustainable usage of humans, where it's you deplete them a little bit, toss them back, because you don't want to exhaust them, right?
That's sustainable vampire.
Sustainable vampirism. That's what humanity is aspiring.
That's what humanity should be looking up to right now.
I don't know. I just can't get down with the fatalistic thing. Am I naive? I don't know.
I would argue that if you drew a graph from zero time until now, right? The horizontal bar is sort of zero is time.
Yeah.
And over here is sort of amount of hangings we go and watch as a group, right? I would argue we start off going to watch a fair amount of hangings as a group. We'd take our kids to go watch hangings. Not too long ago, it was hey, it's a hanging, let's go watch it. It's stoning, let's go stone somebody, right? And there's less group stonings and less group hangings that we're willing to go and watch. I mean, The last one was probably like Saddam, right? That was like
I was just thinking of Saddam and some of his henchmen. That was fairly publicized.
That was one of the last
event.
group hangings.
Yeah.
And we had to work for that. We had to demonize them for 20 years. For like, okay, we're ready for a hanging.
Really
we're ready for a
public
hanging.
The guillotine was last used in 70s in France.
Right. But I mean the amount of I
get it.
Yeah.
It used to be common entertainment. Take your kids out.
The amount of statistically, you should just count the amount of times we actually, as a group, go and attend these hangings. I would argue is going less and less, simply because there's more and more people now who recognize or who agree that, hey, this isn't something we should be collectively doing. It's not. Yeah. It's not. The idea of a collective
society has progressed. When it comes to that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We agree more on what we have a more general idea of good and a general idea of bad.
Yeah. We've redefined what is humane and what is inhumane.
And as time goes, we will hopefully have less and less and less of those.
Thing is, we got some crafty ass people in charge right at the top. This is a point I heard from a former teacher of mine. He was making a point about modern slavery, right? Because you think back to the 1800s and whatever, and the slavery that was rampant then. And there's actually probably more slaves in the world
today
than ever before. A human life is worth way less now than ever before.
Because we've redefined, talking about changes and developments, we've redefined what slavery means.
So it's going up in some ways, down in other ways, and they're getting so good at kind of covering it, right? You get one factory down, it's like, all right, we'll check that out, and now we're good, right?
Yeah.
I think my honest measure of human progress is how many people we are conscious of and are willing to take care of at any point in time. And
how compassionate are we for those who have less?
How compassionate are we? How compassionate do we say we are, and how compassionate actually are we on paper?
Yep.
But you see, people in the corporate world are real good at, for example, when things kind of jumped off last summer in the States with Black Lives Matter and whatnot, you had all of these big corporations saying that they're going to put so much money towards supporting Black Lives Matter. They're going to do all of these internal racial education programs and whatnot, and they spoke loud and clear about what they were going to do. Yeah. Somebody did a study. I wish, if I can find it, I'll link to it in the description of the episode. But somebody did a study of what have they actually done, and they haven't even come more than 5% down the road towards achieving what they said they were going to do. But see, here's the thing. How can these corporations be held accountable for that when we know that they talked all that shit about supporting? But more than a year later, they haven't done it. How do we hold them accountable?
There's 3 companies that I think it was one that I was surprised did something about it. It was Amazon. And they stopped letting the U.S. police use their facial detection system.
Really? I didn't know about that.
Because it was trained mostly by white data scientists who give it mostly faces of white men, and so it doesn't actually tell black men apart very well in bad lighting.
I just saw something on the news, American news, a couple of days ago about a black woman, who took it to court. Because some facial recognition thing had her picked up for an arrest warrant that another black woman had.
Exactly.
And when you look at them in real life, you look at real photographs of them, it's obvious that they're not the same person.
So Amazon actually said, look, up until you guys sort out your issues, you can't use our software.
Okay.
And it was, again, it's
I don't like it, but
Amazon
way to go, Amazon. I don't like to say this.
But to be fair, they wrote bad software, right? It's not the cops' fault that the software is picking out the wrong
So in other words, Amazon.
Right?
So in other words, Amazon's statement about their supposed support for equality and about lessening discrimination against black people was quite false.
In this particular case, in the context of using their facial recognition software, in this particular case, they did pull it back. I think a couple other companies as well, Google and I think IBM also said, okay, look, we're going to have to actually look at this again. I had a bit about this earlier with the smartwatches. When they first came out, they were using red lasers, right?
Yeah.
And they actually use the laser to bounce off the light off the skin and detect then sort of reverberations and figure out how your heart rate. And that only works well if you have light pigment. Right? So Apple, Fitbit, Samsung, they all had to recall all their shit and have them remade them with green lasers. And the green lasers are slightly more expensive.
I had another guest named Anthony, Dr. Anthony. Excuse me, playing footsie with Eirik under the table. Nice. You like that? Dr. Anthony, I had him on, and he does a lot of work about equality in the production world, which a lot of people don't think about. If Apple or whoever comes out with a new computer, are there things that can be done in the manufacturing of that computer that will make it easier for minorities to use or people who are marginalized? This guy studies that, and it's interesting to see how, again, and I don't know how genuine it is if Amazon fixes their software.
I'll give you a very silly example.
But your thing about the watch, see, this is the kind of things that Dr. Anthony studies, is nobody would think that there's any discrimination, racism, or marginalizing in a smartwatch, but there is.
Yeah, I bought it. I went to the gym, and it's literally the main feature I bought it for is not working.
Oh, you just gotta tighten it.
But what's interesting? But see, here's what's interesting is that there's certain people who, and I see this here in Norway all the time. Yeah. Whenever I talk about racism or marginalizing of minorities, they just don't want to hear it. It doesn't happen here in Norway, they say.
Yeah.
I've had a friend be like downright, we're roommates, and I come home and I've had something racist happen to me. I'm trying to explain it to him, and he goes, "Anthony, I just don't care."
Oh shit!
Yeah,
that doesn't surprise me.
And I'm sitting there,
and I'm sure he didn't mean anything bad by that. He didn't come from a mean place.
As far as he's concerned,
exactly.
He's my friend. He loves me. We're bros. If I need a loan or anything like that, or if I need a wingman, he's there. Right? He's my roommate. He cares about me. As far as he's concerned, that's the limit of his. He does not have the capacity to care about whether I had a racist experience.
But it's that not caring thing that allows the marginalizing to. Again, it can be something as simple. And I put simple in air quotes because it's a real thing with a smartwatch that cannot register the skin properly if you're darker skinned.
We talk about this often, and I think one of the things I really like about Eirik, one of the reasons we're such good friends, is also because he's already broken in.
Hey, I did that myself. Nobody sat me.
That's what I said. He's already broken in.
Sounds like somebody else did it too, bro.
Anyway, the result is the same, right? I'll talk to like.
He just erased all of your effort and everything. You didn't do this. Someone did this for you.
I'm a house I've been broken.
Like his wife, his experiences, the jobs he's had. Yeah. He sort of had a lot more exposure than the average Norwegian or the average white person in general. And when we talk about things that I think are racially charged, maybe like once or twice in the last 5 years, where I'd be like, "Hey." Instead of saying, "Are you sure?" Can you actually relate to what had just happened, right? And that's maybe like once in like 5 years. Whereas the most people that I talk to, it's, "Are you sure you saw what you saw?"
Exactly.
Ex-girlfriends. I mean, I had an ex-girlfriend who was she had pictures of herself dressed as Nicki Minaj in blackface for Halloween. Oh, right. And she can't tell why that's bad.
Right.
She's like, "No, but I have you inside me. Like, come on, I can't be racist."
That's the part that I don't get. Maybe that's the naive country boy in me that says that people should understand. It doesn't matter if you haven't experienced it yourself. You should understand that when I or another brown person tells you our experience, you should just take it. Just take that in. Value. Take that in at face value. Don't question it. Don't try to negate it. So the simple, straightforward thinking person in me says that people should be able to do that. And then that poses the question, why do people resist the reality of racism, of marginalizing? Why do people resist that?
There's a lot of very good research. I mean, I think there's more research on race. I think you've had papers being written on race and race issues since the 1800s. Yeah. As soon as you introduced black people to the environment, I think the first kind of protest writing that minorities did was protest writing. Yeah. Right. That's the first time I wrote anything down, was to say, yo, listen,
hey now.
what the hell?
This shit ain't right.
That's the first time I started writing things down. It was protest writing. Most of the first books we wrote were protest books. The Miseducation of the Negro, Carter G. Wilson.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That is a pure protest book.
Right.
It's saying, hey, as a black man or as a minority being raised in America, if you're being raised by the society that colonized you, you are ill-equipped to raise up your community.
That's right.
Because your community is going to grow through very different tools and traditions, and the schools that you go to are going to devalue all of those things.
See, but it's little things in there that people grab onto when they manifest their protest to the reality of racism. They'll say, when you talk about the differences in schooling, they'll say a school is a school. What are you talking about? You went to school just like I did, and they refuse they refuse the facts. They refuse the micro. I call them micro facts. The little things. Of course, everyone goes to school. That's a fact. But the micro fact is that my schools aren't funded like yours, based upon what neighborhood I live in.
Not just that. Even if you're in the same schools, you don't even have to look towards. You don't even
micro
have to,
facts.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that you don't even have to look towards race-specific research on this. Just what happens when you introduce expectations to kids, right? This is a gifted kid. This is a troubled kid, and they get treated that way. If there are any unconscious biases in a teacher's head,
absolutely. It's going to affect that.
Freakonomics. There's an example of a guy who decides to name his oldest son Winner and his youngest son Loser.
Oh, shit.
And Winner goes on to be like an entitled brat who's always arrested and ends up in prison. And Loser becomes a police detective.
Right?
True story. All right. The dad's probably a douchebag, but the true story,
naming his kid Winner and Loser.
That's the only thing they prove.
Exactly.
By the way, I was going to say, thank you for giving me kudos for being fairly understanding over 5 years, even though I've only known you for 2.
Oh shit! Is it only 2?
Yeah,
but you're a thinker. You're an analyzer. You
2018.
2018. Yeah. Getting in on 3. Yeah.
You're the kind of person that I would say I can't help but like you because of the way you approach just about everything. You're a thinker. You're a thinker. You analyze things. You've told me how you hold back on commenting on social media because you think about, okay, well, what's going to happen if I write?
Yeah, and I feel too much if people write back. But I was going to say though on the whole why do people push back and stuff though. I mean, you can see probably the same thing with dudes when it comes to the trials and tribulations of women, right?
Yeah.
Unless, you don't see it. It doesn't happen around you. I had an ex-girlfriend, we went to South America, and I remember she went out once without me, and she came back, and she's like, God damn, I just got so many catcalls and so much annoying attention and stuff. Yeah. When I go out with her, it's like, oh, wait, she's in the possession of she's a dude's possession. We're not going to respect her as his possession.
Right.
All these things dudes don't notice because it's just default. And I don't see women getting harassed.
Right.
I have a friend who was telling me that if she's walking down the street and somebody even catcalling, and if she responds badly to the catcall, she's in danger.
Yeah.
And that freaked me out. Here in Oslo, at Jan Bentorga, she's trying to catch a tram, and somebody says, "Hey, you look good," and she ignores it, and they get angry that she's ignoring them.
But see, people have to look beyond their own horizons. Snoopy, my wife, told me that there was no racism in Norway when we first met, and I asked her, before I go to the land of pure lily white, I want to know what's going on there with there's no racism here. But that's because in her world, within the boundaries of her horizon, she had never seen it or never I'm sure she saw it, but she didn't recognize it as racism. But now that she has a strong black husband, that's her own word. She never says my husband. She says my husband's a strong. So hats off to Snoopy.
All right, checks out.
He squats 4.5 Anthony's.
4.5 Anthony's. But now that she has me in her life, now she sees.
Yeah.
So it's been an educational process for her, and I'm not saying that in any kind of degrading or patronizing way, but it has literally been an education for her in all things racism.
This is. I was just wanting to say one thing that the word ignorance shouldn't be seen as such a slur. It's everybody's ignorant of a ton of stuff.
Absolutely.
I think it is a problem of definition and exposure.
Yeah.
Yes.
The idea of racism is very much. I think most people's idea of racism is that it's something only bad people do. It's something that only who's this dude who was the George Floyd case. Who was the police officer?
Oh, Chauvin.
Chauvin, right?
Derek Chauvin.
You have to be a Derek Chauvin to have racism.
Exactly.
Right? That's what the world thinks of as racism.
But see,
He was
and that
railroaded.
keeps-
I'm a chauvinist.
And for me,
come on.
that is special. That's unique.
Yes.
That's not the common racism. That's
Right.
the
Yeah.
the up there.
Yes.
The general racism we're talking about
Yeah.
is the more day-to-day racism that
Well-
the average person, the non-mean, non-ugly person does.
Yeah.
Well,
It's not the
to me,
lynchings.
racism is more of a. I'm more occupied with the systemic
Yeah.
aspects of racism, and I don't really care to do too much on the individual. I can't change that. I'm not looking to change an individual's mind.
Yeah.
I'm looking to bring awareness and hopefully change to the systemic aspects of racism. Excuse me, and I think people get that confused a little bit when it comes to my approach. It's. I don't think it's the individual. I mean, of course, if you're a person of power, you as an individual racist, you can ruin a lot of lives.
Right.
But I think that is the outlier. I don't think that's the common experience of racism. The common experience is the social thing, the systemic thing.
Yeah.
So I
He thinks that's funny.
Oh no, I'm laughing because I thought I was gonna try to explain, but like I had a job. I don't know if I should name the company. It's one
Do
of
it.
the, it's one
Hang
of
them
the, it's one of the top.
You won't get sued. I will. It's my podcast.
It's one of the top 20 IT companies in the world, and I have a job there. I had a job there. I was working there for a bit, and I remember going to one of the HR parties there. One of the parties, and some of the HR ladies see me. Sorry, saying this wrong. I'm going to one of the parties, and they go, "Hey, you work here?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Wow, you must be really good at your job." And I'm like, "Crap."
Oh,
And these chicks were in HR.
are you supposed to say thank you? Oh, and they're in HR.
Oh, they're in HR.
And it's like,
These
should I
chicks
say
are in
thank you
HR,
to
and
that?
I'm just
Should I
like-
say thanks?
I'm like,
Is
wait,
that it?
you guys are HR? And they're like, "Yeah."
Oh,
Is that a micro or a mini aggression?
but see, and that right
I
there
mean,
is
they were
an
hot,
example.
right? And I think they were trying to flirt.
That's a perfect example of how racism manifests itself, and
Exactly.
sometimes it's quite innocent. It's quite.
But it's the exact same mechanism.
Exactly.
Exact same mechanism.
Exactly.
If I wasn't in the building working there,
Yeah.
what would I have been seen as then?
Right.
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 If I was in the tram in the back with three other black people, what would I have been seen as then? Right?
Exactly.
If I'm wearing my glasses, if I'm not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a silly. It's a. I personally try to. It's like I find it quite tiring sometimes. Like
Because I wanted to ask you, because you and I have a lot of similarities, but again, we also have quite different reference points.
Yeah.
You're African, I'm American.
Yeah.
Talk about your frustrations.
So like there's a lot of times where like I'll be out and somebody goes, "Hey, where are you from?" And I sound American. They're like, "Hey, where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Africa." Like, "Oh." I'm like, fuck just happened.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Right? And
yeah.
you seen Blackish?
Yeah.
And I was like, I heard all this raving good news about Blackish. I'm like, yeah, Kenya Barris, let me check it out. And like one of the first episodes, I think it's the first episodes, his kid goes to school and he's like, oh, I met some new friends. One of them is an African kid. The dad says, yeah, he's from Malawi. Ooh, don't hang out with that kid. I turned off the show.
Damn.
I was like, dude, I'm not trying to reinforce negative stereotypes.
Right.
I am at home in my safe place. Give me some Deep Space Nine. Give me some cool black guy doing some cool shit that is like doing some smart shit, right? Or Black as Fuck I can watch.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Because
yeah.
it's like I tell Eirik, like the TV in my house is very, very, very curated. I can't watch, no offense, I can't watch cop shows.
Okay.
20 out of the 22 police shows that on the average 22 police shows on TV, there's going to be at least 80% of them. One of the bad guys is going to be a black guy, and it will just reinforce stereotypes that I won't even be noticing. Right? So I can't watch them. I can only watch like sci-fi cop shows because in sci-fi, in the future we're all brown.
Right.
There's a lot wider range of nationalities. Right?
I've written a bit. I haven't gotten to use it yet, but I wrote a bit about how it's such a relief to watch the Star Wars movie and see Lando Calrissian. Yeah. It's like, yes, okay. They didn't get rid of us totally.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I tend to pick my TV shows the way Americans pick Barack out of a ballot.
What color is the protagonist?
That's how the protagonist. And Netflix knows this too. They'll try to trick me. They'll put the one black guy in the cover. I'm like, come on. Suits does not have black people.
Does the antagonist have to be white?
No.
But you know what I do with our two kids? Our daughter is 15 now, and our son is 13. And if we're sitting down and we're watching a movie or a series or something, I will pluck out the educational moments. On that cop show, if the bad guy is a stereotypical over the top yo motherfucker black, that kind. I'll hit pause and I'll talk to my kids about that.
Put in a little filter.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Translator's note.
Yeah, I'll watch the series or the television show or the movie, but I will stop and address that educational moment. And I think it's these educational moments that a lot of people aren't willing to tolerate. Yeah. Again, going back to the smartwatch thing, if I bring that up. And maybe if you bring that up, a lot of people will just, roll their eyes like, oh.
So the way that I try to address all this is I'll store it all up.
Because it is tiring.
If it happens at work and it happens during my day, I'll store all that shit up, and then I'll try to make it as funny as possible. And then I'll put it on stage. And then I'll be like, so, I'm black, right? And my life is different from you because you motherfuckers don't seem to see color. Yeah.
but see, and that's the artist in you. I do that as well. I put those things. My stand-up is quite racially charged. My music has elements of that in it, and my podcast definitely does. Do you feel any repercussions, any negative throwback when you put those kind of?
Mostly do you? Positive, yeah. I mean, I'm lucky, knock on wood, right? I've been having a pretty good, pretty good fun with stand up, but a lot of the feedback that I get, like even when I do I feel like I have very sophisticated dick jokes. Like even when I do dick jokes, and like I have a girl with her boyfriend come up to me afterwards, and she goes, "I really like your dick jokes," right? Because I'm not telling them. I feel like almost all my jokes are always about me trying to communicate something that you don't normally think about. Like I have a bunch of blackface jokes where I'm not trying to make somebody feel bad for doing blackface. Yeah. I'm trying to talk about how silly and inane it is, right? Yeah. And hopefully afterwards, if the next time you think about it as a white person who's never met a black person, if you think about my joke about it, then I've done my job, right?
Right.
If you once said, "Hey, I don't see color," and I go up on stage and I warn you that I'm black because I know you don't see color, that should at least prompt you the next time you meet a black person to say, "Wait a minute, I do see color."
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
What am I really saying here?
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's frustrating. Like you said, it's tiring. But you, as a white person, as a Norwegian, do you think the conversation on race? Do you think the conversation on, let's expand that, not just race, but let's say gender equality? The feminist movement in Norway is pretty doggone strong.
Yeah.
Are these things tiring for you to hear about or to discuss?
You guys were talking earlier about like why do people are so dismissive about it and stuff, and I think I can kind of feel where that comes from.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you're raised with people going like, okay, this is Norway. We have everything we're supposed to. It's a small little country with very few issues and a lot of money. Norway's good. Don't complain. Right? It's good. It's certainly good enough.
Oh, go ahead.
Anyway, we're just raised up that way, right? Yeah. We're supposed to be happy about Norway, and I think when people criticize Norway, it's so easily to get defensive about it. Even I feel it. I'm not the biggest Norway fan. I'm not a huge fan of the country.
But you're proud of the country, and so you probably get a little. Oh, come on, John. Why are you talking so?
Not really, though. I'm kind of disillusioned with Norway, but I still feel it in the back of my head. Like if somebody criticizes and stuff, part of me is kind of like, what are your standards? What are you comparing it to?
Yeah,
but and the same with you when you talk to me about some of the issues you come across. Very often, even though I do it less, probably you every once in a while I'll be checking and being like, you sure that's you sure that came from where you thought it did?
So I think the most annoying thing for a minority when you go, like, for example, if I go, I think that was racist, and somebody goes, are you sure that was racist? It's like, wait a minute, are you? Not only now not only now that I have a racist experience, but also I'm also incompetent.
Yeah, right.
and incapable of actually
maybe slightly paranoid. There might be a mental disorder
exactly,
here.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, like I think in the I think personally for me, like I do believe in this. Like, we are all suffering from mass exceptionalism, right? From mass media exceptionalism. We are all suffering from it. If you're on social media, if you watch TV, you have been infected by this mass media exceptionalism, and it's very easy to identify with. I am awesome, nobody else is, nobody else is, or I am not awesome and everybody else is, and so I can feel special about that, right? We all want to feel exceptional about something.
Yeah, pick up yourself or shit on everybody else. Yeah.
Being exceptional should be normal, and if you're not exceptional, then you're mediocre, and mediocre is the worst thing that can happen. and I think that's what's wrong with the world in all things, and even in these discussions about race, right? Depending on the day I've had, I might find that, you know what, I just don't feel special today.
Yeah.
And being racially discriminated against or victimized makes me feel at least special or unique in that moment.
Right.
I'm not saying that that's the.
I understand. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing for a cis white gender male who's like, my day has been fine today, but I'm going to complain that I'm a cis white gender male and that I should get more consideration. And I think it's an equal extreme on the opposite end where you're like, I have no reason to be worried, and therefore I should have something to complain about. Versus I have everything to complain about, and therefore I'm special. I have nothing to complain about, and therefore I'm special. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's the specialness. It's not the complaints. It's the specialness. Right. I don't know if I'm making sense.
No,
I don't think it's the actual complaints. It's we all want to be special, and whatever convenient mechanism or medium we have for identifying some sort of specialness.
But you know what the equalizer for all of that is dialogue.
Yeah,
I talked with you about that a lot.
Yeah.
If people would just talk more.
Yeah.
The person who says, "Are you sure that was racism that you experienced?" If they would, that's fine that they say that, but then be quiet. I don't want to say be quiet, but then allow for the discussion after that.
Yes.
And then that's the equalizer.
Yeah.
And truly allow it to wash over you,
Yeah.
And it's unwelcome to a lot of people. And I think when it comes to stuff like language, politics, religion, nationality, these are inexorably kind of attached to our personality, right? So I think a lot of us, when we hear a criticism of it, we feel personally criticized in a way.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those weird kinks about human brains, and we do well to check against it. One of the things I wish we'd do would be to change school curriculum so kids at some point during their mandatory schooling get some sort of coursing in, okay, this is how the brain works. You want to watch out for this pitfall, make people a bit more skeptical of their
I would like to see them bring back, we had this when I went to school, junior high school, where you would have, you would be schooled in how to debate.
Right.
And we would conduct debates among the students. And I don't see that happening in the Norwegian curriculum, and I don't even know if it's happening in I know that some of the elite schools have debate teams in America. But on the regular, day-to-day, normal high school, junior high school level, I don't think that's happening. So people don't know how to have a hard discussion. And we're getting this thing, and you see this a lot from places like Fox News and from certain politicians here in Norway even, where if you don't agree with me, then there's something wrong with you, and I am to remain distant from you and not engage with you because you think differently.
For example,
there's no dialogue.
Even when you watch the Senate now in the U.S., when they did the Senate dispositions, they had was it Rand Paul was trying to talk shit to Fauci, and it's not even about finding that even at that level. They can't have, as leaders of the state, they can have discussions where that leads to actual truth.
Well, it's that, and I say this, it is at that level. In fact, let's take it a level higher. I'll go back to former President Trump.
Right.
I believe that is where this current thing of don't speak to those who disagree with you, that's where it came from. It started, there were elements of it. There's always been elements of that in American society. But I think it came to the forefront and it was normalized, not only normalized, but I think that it was actually it was pushed out into society from Trump and his administration. If they don't think the way I think, they're a bunch of idiots. They're wrong. They're the enemy.
Thing is, I think this is desired by corporations and the media houses that put forward their agenda. They want most people to feel like these two extremes are warring. then 90% are in the middle.
Entertainment.
Yeah, no, it's great entertainment, and it's good to make people feel like there's not much I can do, right? The world is so crazy. If most people realize that the middle ground, who are fed up with both sides, if they realize they could take power back, but their atomization, I think, is a major component of things. That's why you got like, okay, they're earning more money than me, and they shouldn't be, and taxes are too high, and everybody's out for themselves. There's very little.
But see, I think that's why podcasts and you see a lot of these shows, news shows that are on YouTube. It's basically a news channel, but it's independent and it's only on YouTube. Or you'll see a certain podcast, who are fomenting or lifting up the whole concept of dialogue, the whole concept of independent thought and of analyzing the issues. Because you're not getting that on the regular news media anymore.
And a lot of people tend to sort of think that they can have these conversations on social media. That they,
I love and hate social media. I do.
What did the book I'm reading? The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson.
If you go in there to take a dump, that book is sitting right in front of my toilet right now. There we go.
Great book,
I got it maybe a month ago, and I'm like 4 chapters into it. I think
I got it on this last 2. I got it on the just the other day, and I was stuck in waiting for my corona testing yesterday, so I just got into it, and I'm loving it. And one of the things he talks about in there is this idea that now I'm losing my train of thought.
I started talking about dumps, and you said out with the bad, in with the good.
Yeah.
No, we were talking about
dialogue.
Yeah, dialogue, the value of dialogue, and how these different mediums are bringing back dialogue.
Yes. And he was saying that social media is probably one of the best things to happen to us. It's also one of the worst things to happen to us, because mass exceptionalism has been the way of monetizing things for a long time, even before the internet, social media.
Well, but what define mass exceptionalism.
So mass exceptionalism is basically the fact that we are trying to entertain humans and entertain each other, and we tend to pick the top end of human experiences for that, right? Yeah. So whereas back in the day you might watch one movie or 2 movies about sort of a war, and one movie about a romance, and another maybe a Disney movie about this and that. Nowadays, in a single day, you can have 1,000 different examples of somebody jumping off a cliff or having some amazing experience where no matter what if you think you're having if you think you're normal and you have a normal life, all you have to do is go online and just not even look very far, and you'll have 1,000 examples of why you should be exceptional, and you not being exceptional now is not normal.
Okay.
Right? We sell back in the 60s or back in the 50s after World War II, when America was trying to really boost and revitalize the economy, they turned to what was his name? Edward Bernays.
Yeah.
Edward Bernays, who had been the head of propaganda for.
Didn't they name a sauce after him?
They named a bunch of things.
Differently spelled.
Yeah, they named a bunch.
He was the nephew of Sigmund Freud.
Sigmund Freud. Yeah, he's.
Really?
Yeah. He's the one who coined the term public relations.
Okay.
Right, and he was the one who changed from selling you a vehicle that will last, that has good mileage, good gas, and so on, to hey, put a hot girl in the car and sell an emotion.
He also got women to smoke.
He got women to smoke by so during the suffragette parade, he had a bunch of girls wear short skirts and what do they call those leggings, and as they got to Times Square, they were to stop, lift up their skirts, and in those skirts was packs of Lucky Strikes. Each pull one out and light one. All in concert.
A freedom torch.
Exactly, a freedom torch.
So this is the guy that started all of this stuff. That
women are independent and can smoke if they want to. Sales skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? And Edward Bernays is probably responsible for a lot of the mass exceptionalist marketing that the industry, any sales industry does today.
There's a really good documentary about that called The Century of the Self.
Yes.
The Century of the Self.
By Adam Curtis.
Four-part BBC documentary.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fascinating.
Okay, so that's mass exceptionalism then.
And today, because of the internet, you've managed to open source mass exceptionalism. And mass exceptionalism really drives these feelings of, I must be exceptional all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
All my pictures on my posts should be me doing amazing things, and pain and sadness and anything negative are a bug and not a feature of life.
Right.
We've gotten to a point where pain, sadness, any kind of suffering are not part of normal life. It's not exceptional. And this mass exceptionalism, so we've managed to outsource shame. We've managed to outsource this idea of always feeling ashamed of not being exceptional.
Okay.
And that's what one of the really dark sides of social media. And if you don't feel like you're saying with your kids, if you're unable to filter out your use, like really manage your use and filter out, sort of, I'm on social media to sort of see my friends, see some events, and then get off.
And then get it. Yeah. Get in and get out. Yeah. Whereas Joe Rogan says, post and ghost.
Post and ghost. Yeah, but if you stay there and you start trying to engage, start trying to go look at people, all the things people are posting, they're not posting like I think. And I checked myself as well. I was like, how many times have I posted something bad that's happened in my day? I have at least one bad moment, at least throughout the day, one day or every day. Well, I never share that. I only share the good, But
you know what? Really it's a big challenge. This whole thing with the exceptionalism thing and having to mirror these celebrity lives. It's very contagious.
It is.
But going the other route, and if you're going to use social media and if you're going to use it realistic, that is a very difficult thing to do. And how do I know that? Because I've done it. Putting everything out there about losing my son and how I feel and being depressed and stuff, talking about it openly on the podcast and stuff. It's a difficult thing to do, but once you've done it, you'll start thinking, why did I wait so long to be open and honest about this thing? Because when you expose yourself like that, it's very freeing.
Yeah, it is.
I talk about this on a podcast episode a couple episodes back, that I think especially men are so afraid of being real. And when I say being real, I mean all emotions, not just your anger and your masculinity, but your sadness. What are you challenged with? What makes you depressed? What irritates you? But when you are more open, I'm not saying you've got to do it to try and get attention, but I say do it to try and free yourself, because it's almost a physical burden that is lifted. Because I found myself trying to struggle through doing stand-up when I was so upset about losing my son.
Yeah.
And when I actually incorporated his loss into my routine, I have jokes about my son dying from a heroin overdose. I can't tell you how freeing that was, because it was so hard to try and hide it.
Yeah.
So the effort of being open about those things, for me on my podcast and in my stand-up, but also on social media, the effort is enormous. But once you've done it, I'm here to tell you, you'll have a better life. You'll be a better person. You'll be a stronger person when you can be honest. Because, and don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people, you'll see the whiny teenage girl, I'm so depressed, ... And then she won't say anything.
Yeah.
That's very often that's for attention.
Or, I'm so depressed, lol.
Yeah, exactly. So
I do feel that a lot.
So that's false.
Someone did so. My dad died today, lol.
Exactly. So doing it in an ingenuous way to get attention and to get likes and stuff is pretty pathetic. Yeah. But if you're doing it and then you're engaging people in that discussion on social media, it can be a beautiful thing, and you can change lives.
For me, I've started to, instead of seeing it as pathetic, I've started to see it as a cry for help.
You know what? Maybe that's I call myself an optimist, but that's kind of cynical when I say
it's a cry for help.
Enoch, but you're right. You're right.
That person is trying to actually get validation,
I take that back.
From strangers on social media.
I take it back. It's not pathetic. It can very often be a cry for help.
They are literally suffering from this idea of having to be exceptional all the time, and they don't get why they're not exceptional.
Exactly.
Because the world has told them they must be exceptional all the
point,
time.
Anthony. Yeah.
And if they're born in Norway, then why are you not happy? Right?
I feel that.
But people should allow themselves to express their unhappiness, their flaws, their sorrow. And again, if it's coming from a genuine place, you can put something out there on social media that can help people. I got a lot of feedback from people, men and women, but mostly men. A lot of feedback about how it push, and I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back. Well, I guess I am a little, but I'm putting. Thank you. See, I have shoulder trouble, so I can't do it.
You're such a big back.
but I'm saying this so that people can understand the value in sharing your sorrow, because I get that feedback from people who say that it pushed them to maybe getting psychological help. It pushed them to approach a family member that they knew for years was depressed. And these are real cases that people have told me. Yeah. They knew a family member was depressed for years, and they've been afraid for years that they're going to take their life.
Yeah.
And me talking about my situation pushed them to actually now approach that family member and get them some help. So see, there's a lot of beauty to be had from that genuine expression on social media. So social media sucks, but it can be a beautiful tool.
I think
it can be.
I mean, I think all tools are agnostic, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's we people who make it what it is.
We give it life.
Yeah.
We give it life. We give it meaning, and how we use it is everything.
Yeah.
You're gonna cut cheese or people?
Word.
Try and get more into the mic.
All right.
We're hearing you, but
okay.
But there you go. Right. There you go.
I get excited, guys.
He gets excited, people. We have to reel him in. Actually, this is a massively edited episode. Every 15 seconds, I cut the sound and video.
Wrangling down Anthony.
And Anthony goes in and takes a cold shower and comes back.
This brain was
We've been talking for 6 hours now.
This brain was designed for the savannah. It has 2 speeds. It has I'm sitting by the fire or I'm hunting lions.
But this in this episode is exactly what I thought it would be. We're laughing. I'm getting chills down my spine from the brotherhood, from the discussion about both foolish things, but also some serious things. And this goes back to my view on dialogue. Here we're not opposing views, but we are talking about things that concern us. And I think if people did this kind of thing more often, and it doesn't have to be on a podcast, it can be with a cup of coffee at the kitchen table. But if people would do this more often, I think that society would be a lot healthier than what it is. People just don't talk enough.
I have a friend, in fact, the friend who said, Anthony, I just don't care, when I was telling him about that recent experience that I had. We've been talking about doing a podcast together because we are so diametrically opposed in so many different views, and we still manage to get along as friends, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, at least as far as he and I are concerned, we're able to talk about the reasons we have our points of views, share those points of views, evaluate them, and not feel that we have to judge the other person as positive or negative.
Thank you. That's the element that needs to be injected into discourse today, dialogue today, that you don't have to judge the other person. Yeah. Everyone, I got to own this guy, or so-and-so owned him. Did you see that on CNN? Yeah, right. He owned him.
Yeah.
That judgment, if you can just remove that and just stick to the conversation, stick to the dialogue. Yeah. And you talk about having this friend of yours, and you guys don't see eye to eye. Yeah. People need to realize that it's okay. You don't have to see eye to eye on everything.
You won't. I mean, it's like finding a partner. You won't find the perfect partner. You'll find somebody good enough.
I argue with Snoopy more than anybody in my life, and yet that's the woman I love. That's my best friend.
The ups and downs are. I keep going back to this mass exceptionalism idea, but the notion that we're only supposed to feel good is really sick.
You got to roll with there's so much to be gained from the hard times. Again, I am a believer in self-imposed struggle. I look for those challenges. Those challenges are what's going to make me a more solid person. You can't have it smooth all the time. You can't.
I chose to catch the train 5 a.m. and on 3 hours of sleep and sacrifice hanging out with friends and all that. So I could do 5 minutes yesterday, right? I am choosing how I suffer, right?
Yeah.
But you must choose how you suffer. You have to choose what you're willing to suffer for. That's it. But you are going to suffer.
You are going to suffer. Life isn't perfect.
If you don't choose your suffering, it will be chosen for you. Right?
I saw a great, if I can remember, maybe I saved it. There was an Instagram thing where a mother, black woman, I believe it was in St. Louis, her daughters, and this is stupid, her teenage daughters knew that their mother had access to their Instagram accounts, but they were still getting on there, going live on Instagram, wearing the booty shorts and twerking and talking about doing this, that, and the other with guys and stuff. And their mother found it, goes live on her daughter's Instagram and just totally called them out. And she didn't use the words, but she was addressing how that Instagram life is not true. So she, live on her daughter's Instagram, dragging her daughter with her, went into her daughter's room and showed everybody how shitty her room looked, dirty clothes all over the floor, went into the bathroom and opened the cabinet and said, this makeup that my daughters are putting on, that's not there, that's my makeup. Here's what they look like normally. And she swung the phone to her daughter and she looked like shit. and just put the reality of, and I guess what I'm thinking is, I wouldn't have the heart to shame my child if they did something. But I think it was a good thing that this mother did that and put it out there and that people can see it. And maybe it will be a reminder to people that, okay, take Instagram and these other social media platforms for the entertainment that they are, but realize that model or that person, this person behind the camera, this is just a little snapshot that they're putting out there to entertain you people. This isn't their life. Yeah.
The best summary I've heard of that is that basically you're comparing your behind the stage footage with people's highlight reels. Right?
Yeah.
And it's just no way to go about it.
It's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
It ties all back to this idea of that mass exceptionalism. Yeah. We're looking at the if you look at the bell, like a bell curve of human experience. The big slump of human experience is right in the middle of the bell curve.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's just normal, ordinary. Go to school if you can. If you have the opportunity. If you live in a country that has the kind of infrastructure. If you're lucky to have a sort of the typical sort of a Western lifestyle. You're born, you go to school, make some friends. Pick a career or pick a job or vocational path. You pursue that. Maybe make some family and carry it. That's literally, for most people, that's the breadth and depth of the experience. Is going to be just a normal, ordinary life. Yeah. Right? At the very, very one end, you're going to have the extreme experience, wars, suffering, slavery, poverty, extreme poverty. On the other, maybe not even that's quite a large number. On the other end, you'll have the extreme experience, the Bill Gates of the world, the Jeff Bezos of the world. And the media makes it seem as if those extremes are the norm.
Yeah. It's something that we struggle with. I've always wondered what would it be like if all social media platforms suddenly lost video capabilities? What if there were no more pictures and no more videos? Social media would still be there, but only in written form.
Oof.
It would be less populated.
Yeah, very.
Which would be a good thing. Which would be a good thing.
Yeah.
There'll be a new platform that does only pictures the next day.
But the imagery, I think, is quite damaging, especially for young girls. I think.
Put it this way. Say, I think it's hard to talk about this without context because. There is a history around it, right? Media as a thing traditionally, like if we go back to the 60s, the 50s when it really picked up, we had TV and newspapers. That was it. And we had books, TV, newspapers, and books. Those were the three avenues in which you could reach people. TV, or if you were standing in a soapbox in the corner. Yeah. Right.
But wasn't that better because then people had to talk more?
So then I think I don't think the tool of the internet is actually good or bad or better or worse. I think again, back when we had media, when we had TV, newspapers, and just books, there was nothing. What changed was how we sold ideas. Yeah. We stopped selling ideas on the merit of the idea itself and started selling an emotion.
Yeah.
Once we did that, it was just we just everything we did. If we had the internet before Edward Bernays, all your posts would have been, "Hey, this is my normal day," right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
After Edward Bernays, it's, "Hey, this is me on the beach."
What's exceptional? what's worth sharing?
Exactly. Yeah. What's worth sharing? The exceptionalism is what's changed it. It's not the medium.
I would also say though, Noam Chomsky said it pretty succinctly to me. He says that kids today are so stimulus hungry because they're used to living pictures, sounds, noises, all the freaking time. Our brain doesn't. We get anxious when we don't have stimulus around us now.
Now we filter and we moderate how much time our kids can be on that computer. But I think they've been touched so much by this media that we have today. Yeah. We find that when it's movie night for the family, sometimes we're just not hitting the right film with our kids because it's not fast enough. Yeah. It's not flashy.
Slow burners don't work.
And I think they've been customized to this, the 7-second video meme.
The next dopamine hit. I don't want to wait 10 minutes for a scene to play.
And that's with them having two parents who are quite concerned about those things, and we filter their time.
So I'm in IT, and I see a lot of these studies coming out of San Francisco. There's a lot of people who make these technologies who will never let their kids near one of them. Like they actually hire special nannies who say no iPhone or screen time of any kind for my kids because it ruins their brains.
And it's really the smart thing to do. Now we without putting too much of our business out there, like I say, we control how much time our kids have on that. They can't just start buying any old video game that they want. Yeah. And there's a little bit of pushback from some of their friends, and some of their parents have actually been so ballsy, and I'll call it ballsy, that they've actually tried to concern themselves about what we allow our children to do.
You're being called Luddites.
Wow, exactly. I'm not a violent guy, but that was, I wanted to put my fist down somebody's throat, trying to tell me what's good for my child.
I don't want to have kids, but...
So I think a lot of parents can't deal with that pressure, so they just give in. Yeah, you can have that iPhone at the age of 8. Yeah, you can buy all those video games. Or no, I'm sorry, we'll buy them for you.
It's hard enough in a household with a mom and a dad if mom's cooler than dad or vice versa.
Well, I'm definitely cooler than Snoopy.
Yeah, then the other one has to be a bad guy all the time, and it's like it's hard.
I'm here having fun with you guys on a podcast. She's out picking blueberries somewhere. Who's cooler, her or me? Okay? No, my wife is cool. She's very cool.
Depends who wants some blueberries.
You wouldn't say that if she did not wield a knife.
She's a little badass. She's actually, if she wasn't so shy, I think she would make a good stand-up comedian because she has such a strange take on everything. There's so many dualities to that woman. She's a strawberry blonde with reddish highlights, so there's a crash there. Yeah. She's Samisk, but she's living here in southern Norway. There's a crash right there. Yeah. And there's just so many. She's got two ways of looking at everything. She's you want to know what she's all about? You got to listen to the episodes I have when Snoopy is on, and that's her. Cool. She's hilarious.
I think I saw one. I think I saw part of one.
Yeah.
She's something else. No, but our ways of, this is what I was going to say. Our ways of parenting. She's much more strict than I am. Yeah. I'm more liberal thinking when it comes to television time and what they see on television and certain social things that kids can get involved in. Mm. But going back to what I've been saying about dialogue, now a lot of couples would divorce over those differences. Yeah. Seriously, and they do. Couples divorce for much less than that.
Sure.
But when you have a dialogue...
2 divorcees right here.
Oh, are you divorced? Oh,
yeah, I'm divorced as well.
I didn't know that.
Oh, really? Bro, look at me. Of course I'm.
Of course
I've been married.
I didn't know that.
Look at me. Somebody was like, "Oh, I'm definitely marrying you."
How long ago? How long ago were you divorced?
5-6 years now.
Okay, I didn't know that. Maybe you told me, but I didn't. I don't listen to what you say. I never listen to what you say. So
no, we didn't discuss it the first time.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't have enough time on that episode either. I had to cut it short. We had a lot left on the table that we could have talked about. No, but again, back to dialogue. I mean, that is crucial, not just from stranger to stranger or podcast host to podcast guest, but also within personal relationships and marriage and stuff. I don't know why you guys are divorced, but I can guess that it's not just because of your lack of good looks. It's probably damn, John is on it. No, but it could be a dialogue issue that you guys have Vogue. No, that you guys that there may have been a dialogue issue where things, maybe in hindsight, do you see that things could have been discussed better or more deeply, or I don't know.
Not so
Isn't that dialogue?
My ex-wife, she had a master's in social psychology. She'd been through a
Too smart
psychology
for you.
program and stuff like that. No,
Probably.
she might say so, yeah. But for me, it was good. But problem is, she's very strong opinions. She's got better memory than me. And whenever there's
She calls you on your bullshit.
Yeah. And then at any fucking time when I'm like, no, that's not how it was, I'd have to yield every fucking time because she was way more sure of herself. And it's like, I'm not wrong every time, right?
Okay.
So that was tricky, and her strong opinions and stuff meant that sometimes I just felt like, dialogue or no, I'm not being heard here. And then you start burying things down.
How long were you guys married before you got divorced?
2013 to 18.
And you?
I remember. No, a little bit longer. 2011 to 15.
Okay, I lasted 6 years with my first wife.
Yeah,
but I met my ex-wife when we were together a lot longer. We're together a lot longer than we were married.
Get up on that mic, my friend.
We were together a lot longer than we were married, and I don't know. I'm a
That mic is not your ex-wife. You can be close to it. You can be close to it.
In fact, my ex-wife and I think we will both agree that we could have probably done a lot better at that relationship. That we're better armed now than we were then. I think we're a lot younger emotionally. Our expectations going into the marriage, I think we had a lot more unrealistic ideas of who we were going to be to each other. Coming in. I know I did, and I know she did. And then when those expectations weren't met, we didn't really have the.
So it wasn't a dialogue thing. You guys could talk.
We could talk, but we could also get we're both very stubborn. So if I thought I was right and she thought she was right, like perhaps the most important thing I've learned since staying divorced is, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy?
My wife used to say that to me. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
And I would be like, being right makes me happy. That was who I was then, right? And that was who she was too at the time. Being right made us happy, and I think that combined with sort of how self-absorbed we could get with our emotions just meant that when things got difficult, it was hard for us to work through them respectfully.
Yeah, interesting. See, I've been with Snoopy now for 20 years. So to go back into I would like to contribute with my story on why I was divorced from my first wife. I can't go back. I can't go back mentally to what that was like. I mean, we didn't get along, and we had enormous differences on our views on things. But I can't.
The wisdom of your experiences is apparent in your 20 years with Snoopy.
Well, thank you for saying that. But the wisdom, okay, yeah, maybe the mistakes that were made in that first marriage have contributed to the good things in this marriage. But I think it's more of it was literally a match that was meant to be. I mean, all of my differences and her differences, it makes us fit. I don't want to sound corny, but that's
complementary. Yeah,
exactly, and it brings it's like Star Wars. It brings balance to the Force. She's Darth Vader and I'm Ben Kenobi. It brings balance, and I think that is essential for him. And again, that doesn't mean you have to agree on everything.
No.
But the things that you win and lose in arguments,
you could have my ex-wife on here on a podcast because we're still friends. She wouldn't do it, but you could if you could, and we talk about it. I'm sure we would both agree for the most part that a lot of the things that we discussed that we thought were like, oh my God, world ending, are completely solvable, solvable. But in that moment, in that time, it's the charged emotion, and also we just had such little tools to unpack charged emotions.
Well, that's important. Right? You have to have a certain maturity. You have to have a certain relationship maturity.
Yeah, you do.
And I don't think, looking back, here's one thing I do remember: I didn't have the relationship maturity to be married with my first wife.
Both of us were Diplo brats. We had like a Siddhartha kind of upbringing, where like all disease, sadness, and sickness are hidden from us. Right. So we're walking around. The world is pretty. Well, Switzerland, Norway.
You were sheltered from a few realities of life, maybe.
Yeah. And my
what'll keep you on the mic better? If you swing your chair around.
Okay.
And then you're talking more into the.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Try that. There
because
you
I keep
go.
trying to turn to look at you.
Don't do
talk to
that.
the mic
Why
as
would you
well.
want to do that?
But like I know that at least when I was in Africa, I'm not sheltered from sort of the fuller range of life's experiences. But when I
Right.
was in the West, when I was in Europe, I was definitely sheltered from the full range of life experiences.
I see.
And my mother was she was a diplomat. She was a boss. There was a lot of things that she didn't have to do that the average parent does, right? I never saw my mom sit down and pay bills, for instance, right? Because she's living a boss life.
Right,
When I'd go places, when we travel places, there would be some aide who would sort of be like, "Oh, walk us through customs and things like
Yeah,
that." So a lot of the things that people experience as normal for me were like, "Oh, I only experienced those things after I became my own individual."
You carry your own bags?
You know what? Actually, that move was bad. Now I think you're not in the shot. There you go. Try that. There you go.
I'll try to lean forward.
Try that,
I'll lean
yeah.
forward.
I'm so demanding.
I just get so excited.
Again, this is a heavily edited podcast. Every 5 minutes, we shut it off into a cold shower with Anthony, calm him down.
By the way, you were saying the diplomat thing did not help you guys having to unpack things? Tough things?
Because I think that we had a lot more of that mass exceptionalism life than we would have.
Right. So the mundanity.
Yeah.
Well, I can imagine. Again, I can imagine you guys being very sheltered from some of the realities of life. Yeah.
Our idea of romance was quite Disney, I think. And Disney is a dangerous ass dude for that. He teaches you how to think before you can think, and you're walking around thinking, "I'm going to be Prince Charming, and she's going to be my princess." And even if she wants to be that, there's a lot of difficult conversations you have to have.
Sure. Relationship maturity. Yeah.
Just a tiny little thought I had. This ties back to what we were talking about with the race and the priming people become under. I had a sociolinguistics book because I used to study linguistics. We had a sociolinguistics book that basically talked about how much Disney primes you to have these preconceptions about different accents and stuff like that. Apparently, the Norwegian accent for English is dour and sad. Swedish is a
Really?
bit more upbeat. Oh
I
yeah,
don't
it's
get
a
that.
very sad dialect apparently. Anyway,
I totally disagree.
and then British is villainy. It's like it just went through the list of like, okay, use these accents for these
Interesting.
kind of roles, and
So
they
put a lot
prime
of
people.
psychology behind that.
Yeah,
I don't agree with the Norwegian accent though. But having said that, I don't think you speak English with a Norwegian accent.
No, I don't. No.
And I also think that it's different the way Norwegian men speak English.
It also depends on where
and
you
Norwegian women.
really.
And- yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Women, when Norwegian women speak English, I think it's so doggone sexy.
I think that might be your sexuality swinging in there, bro.
Is it?
Yeah. If you're into dudes, you might feel different. I don't know.
He has a good
Also,
point.
of
He has
course,
a good point.
Of course, there's so many different dialects and stuff too. So there's so many
but I don't think-
Norwenglish from my part of the country sounds totally different to Norwenglish in Oslo.
And I have noticed that, absolutely. I have noticed that.
I tend to think that men speak more English than women here.
And and that's what I was going to get to. I think because the women are less practiced at it
Also,
than the men,
also,
generally.
Girls and boys have such different expectations too. Like in Norway, it's widespread talking about flink pike syndrome, the good girl syndrome, right? I'm supposed to get straight A's. I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do that. I think a lot of girls, they're like, I don't want to talk because I'm going to screw it up. Dudes are a bit more like,
Right.
I got an opinion.
Right.
Yeah, well, I can remember my time as a teacher at a Norwegian high school. The boys, it was much easier to get them to speak English in class. So maybe there is something.
But boys are also way more willing to fail. There's all these things that take more risks.
I think women are wondering, what am I going to say? No, but I agree with Eirik that I think boys are more are just more likely to accept trying and failing. And see no consequences.
And that's probably something that could be changed by by just knowing what we're doing subtly and to influence kids early on. But this is how it is right now, definitely.
Do you think though that with the feminist movement here in Norway, that these what some people would say are natural differences between girls and boys, men and women, that so many of those natural differences are no longer recognized by society because people are afraid of being discriminatory towards women?
I think if you're gonna have that conversation, you have to first start with
someone other than you guys, because you guys don't want to get canceled.
Let's get a woman.
Right. Because I think I think the first thing you have to say is, hey, do you believe that there's traditional natural differences between men and women, or do you not? Because that's something people don't
traditional
Traditional
differences. Yeah, but traditional differences and natural differences are two totally different things.
Right.
I believe.
But I mean traditional natural differences versus postmodern natural differences.
Yeah.
Right.
Constructs.
Yeah, constructs. Because traditional natural differences are like women are smaller and have less
muscle mass, different hip structure,
and they produce more oxytocin over time and will have generally a wider range of emotions. Like women are analog and men are digital. It's like we have on off, and the woman has like a whole range. Right? It's like a man can feel she's into me, she's not. Right?
Yeah.
A woman can feel a whole range of things. Right?
Interesting. I'm learning all sorts of. Next marriage is gonna stick after this.
Now you're ready. No, I don't. I mean, it's a touchy subject, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And a lot of people have said what some people in the feminist movement would say wrong things, and have been canceled because of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I understand that people are hesitant to even talk about it, but I think it's an interesting thing that's happening in society, in that some of these differences, what some people, myself included, would say are natural differences between men and women, are being erased.
Actually,
all for the benefit of gender equality and the feminist movement.
I just want to drop a terrible name in here, though. I haven't checked his facts on this, but this is one of the points that Jordan Peterson keeps bringing up. Like, he uses Norway as a grand example that there are inherent differences. Because if you look to Norway, they got all the chances they want, but women seem to go towards nursing occupations and stuff like that, even more so in Norway.
Yeah, but
I don't find that to be a knockdown argument.
No,
but supposedly that's the state.
No, that could be easily explained by mass education, right?
Yeah.
Mass education favors cis white males. Professors, there's plenty of studies of how teachers will focus more on the white male students in class and so on. So it could easily explain why women find themselves drawn to different kinds of classes where there's less sort of 18-year-old testosterone-driven white men.
Don't have to
So you're saying it's the woman's choice because she feels more comfortable in that setting.
So in IT,
is that what you're saying?
In IT, prior, I can give you an example from IT because that's what I studied, right? And then like in the prior to like the 80s, where most professionals in IT were starting at an older age, in their 40s or 50s, and were coming from different industries, you tended to have about half and half men and women. Right?
Really?
But then the 80s happened, or the 70s, the 80s happened, and something changed. You started seeing a lot more men in IT. And what actually changed was mass education. We started teaching IT in schools.
Okay.
And when we started teaching IT in schools, we started bringing 18-year-old guys and girls into a classroom. And the 18-year-old guys are, you know what 18-year-old guys are like.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah. And the 18-year-old women started to shy away more and more from those environments. Not the subject, but the environment. Yeah. Right? And now fast forward 20 years later, we're putting out a bunch of IT guys every year, more and more majority men. Right?
Okay, but why is that the case with the IT branch, when if you look at educational as a whole, women, girls and women are far more successful in the educational system than boys and men?
Those environments. I think it's like across the STEM industries, right? Women will tend to do better, right? Yeah. But the classroom environment, across all the studies that I've come across, the focus, the environment is geared towards the guys in the room.
Right.
Whether you're in a black majority or white majority, even the female teachers themselves, right, or even though they're aware of the bias, they tend to be sort of more drawn to giving more focus to the male portion of the class.
And that's such a strange thing.
I think that has a huge impact on how many women graduate out of a certain class.
Sure.
How many women stay in a class.
Sure. Yeah.
No, it's fascinating. I too wonder like where are the boundaries and stuff. But the best way I think to look at it is there's way bigger differences within the individual group of men and women, whatever in between, than there are between the genders. Right, so there's way bigger diversity within the group of women or within the group of men than there is difference between the two groups.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I was raised by my mother was widowed, so my dad died 3 weeks before I was born.
Okay.
Right. And my mom basically had to now raise 4 kids. Which is not. This is in Malawi. It's like the 8th, 9th poorest country in the world. She's well educated and so on, but she's been pregnant for the last 9 months, and she'd been a housewife for a long time, and now she's pregnant with me, and she has to sort of raise us, make my sisters women, and make my brother and I men, educate us. Give us, food, shelter, clothing, worldviews, values, and I remember. Like simple thing, like her being a woman leader at work in a male chauvinistic Africa, where in the school bus, I would have colleagues of my mother who are talking shit about her at their dinner table.
Oh,
and their kids are bringing it to the school bus. So my brother and I are whipping ass. Like,
talk about my mama.
And like. I know that and again, for the longest part, I didn't realize how hard my mother's life was just because she was a woman, right? I understand that she was paid, like in the Malawi government. If you're a woman in government, if you're a man and your wife dies, you still get paid as a married man. Because a single man and a married man have 2 different salaries in government, right?
Oh, wow.
In government, yeah. Single man and a married man because your family allowance and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same in the U.S. When you're married, your government salary changes. In the Army, I think if you're married, you have a different salary.
Yes, true.
So it's the same Malawi government. But whereas if you're a woman and you lose your husband is widowed, you go back down to a single salary.
That's quite discriminatory.
Yeah. So simple things like that all the way up the chain, right? And she was a leader in her field. She's a great career, but the amount of struggles she had just because she was a woman and then a black woman on top of that, I can't even relate to. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But I know
tough lady.
But she was in a world that is traditionally male dominated. Almost always either one of 2 or one of 3 women in the entire room, wherever she was. And I think one of the things she at least managed to tell me or communicate to me was that as a single woman in that environment, the things that make you a woman are also the things that the men will pick on. But it's also the things that will make you strong. You're like my mom would always be very clear about how she's a lot more emotionally invested in things than her male colleagues are. Right.
I see.
And that was her strength. And although some of our colleagues see that as a weakness, that was also her strength. And they would, I think, perhaps people would argue that, if you're too emotionally invested, then you won't make the best objective decision. I don't know. But I think for her, it was. What I at least learned from her as a parent is that you really have to choose what you're willing to sacrifice. And if you're able to sort of say, hey, this is what I think is important to me, and I'm willing to work for that, then you've, like we were saying earlier, you've chosen what you're going to suffer for.
Right. Interesting. Do you guys talk about these kind of things together?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you guys are really good friends. You guys hang out every day, right? Is this a kind of...
Remember when walking in the door where we're like almost like...
And you were... podcast already started.
Yeah.
Dude was invalidating me from the train station.
I wasn't invalidating. Kind of a little bit. See. The thing is that the acceptance that you have a negative experience is not invalidating it.
No, it's just that you were going like, your suffering's not special. I'm looking to feel heard, and you go like, that's kind of you, like your friend going, I don't care about the racism today, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's different because
I know it's different, but
if he had said, I care about your racism, but you still got to carry on with your day, that's different, right?
But if he said your racism isn't special, it's like, I'm sorry, but it's just another day.
No, it's like, and it isn't special. And in fact, the day that I had that compared to sort of things my mom has gone through.
Yeah. But does that change how you feel about it? Like if somebody says that to you when you're venting, is that being met in a good way?
So that's a bad example. Let me put you in a bad example. So I was struggling with debt quite a bit. Like I'm still sort of getting on top of my personal debt, right? Mm-hmm. And now
what are you buying?
I tried to start a company, right? And
that's right. Yeah.
And it ended up sort of
that can be quite the financial strain.
Up and down, and eventually I ended up just sinking money into it, and I ended up being in the hole. And I ended up getting some help from people who trusted me, and now I'm sort of it's manageable. I can I can meet some savings goals, and I'm working towards sort of things. I'm on a good trajectory.
Is the company still running though?
No,
you just let it go, so now it's just
shot that baby in the head.
So now it's just dealing with the financial aftermath.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then and I joined a new company that was sort of, and I got new work, and I'm on a good trajectory in that path, and my career is in a better path. But my point was that when I was at the worst point of dealing with that debt, where I feel completely ashamed, I can't even talk about it. I can't even. I don't want to look at my mom or my friends or anybody and tell them, "Hey, I'm struggling with debt." I don't want to go out this weekend because I'm counting change or whatnot. When I'm going through that, and the only thing to do to get out of it is to look it straight in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me thinking that I am the only person in the world who's ever been in debt was detrimental to that.
But I wasn't thinking that.
Me thinking that I'm the only one who's failed at trying to start a startup was detrimental to that. The feeling that I thought that you were communicating was, hey, I feel bad, and I feel like, this is like, how do I for me, the feeling at the time was, I uniquely fucked up, and no one can help me. Right. And when I realized that, you know what, I haven't uniquely fucked up of just run of the mill fucked up. Like, all fuck ups are all run of the mill fuck ups. All problems, all personal problems are just problems. They're not personal. They're just problems. And when that became something I could accept, I could then tell people, hey, I fucked up.
Right. You had to go through that process.
Yeah. One of the things I love about American culture is the speak up culture. Right. Like I don't hear a common term for my bad, I dropped the ball in European culture. Yeah. Right. In American culture, it could be at work, high level meeting, my bad, I dropped the ball on that. We'll do this going forward. Right. I don't feel a lot of that
no.
over here.
I noticed that too.
And I feel like that that sense of owning up for me and saying, okay, my bad, I dropped the ball, I fucked up there, gives me power. Right. It gives me power to then now address that issue and become better.
Sure.
Right? And so,
because it takes a lot of energy to try and deny the responsibility, to try to deny the fact.
So when somebody tells me, hey, look, all you got to do is make a budget. And I go, no, my finances are more fucked up than you can imagine. It's like, dude, just make a fucking budget and live to it. Right. That's all I had to do. But I thought that was, it was more.
Well, there's a lot of feelings in personal finance.
It's a lot.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot.
And those feelings cloud judgment. It clouds the practicality of the situation. Yeah.
Yeah, gambler's fallacy, right? It's so easy to be like throwing good money after bad because you feel like, okay, I need this.
But respect for having started a business, even though it failed. I mean, that's
yeah.
I started. I was in that world. It didn't fail. I ended up selling my gyms.
Well done.
But it was thank you. But good God, it was hard work. Yeah. Anybody. I have so much respect for anybody who goes that route to start their own business from scratch. Yeah. Whether you're using just your own money or whether you have to, this whole thing about having to finance and having to go out and, in a sense, beg people for money, beg people to believe in your dream and help you to finance it. Yeah. The learning experience is almost unbeatable. I mean, you learn so much about yourself and about people in general.
Yes. Those 3 years were... it was 3 years where I exactly every day chose my suffering. I chose exactly every day what my energy was going to be spent on. Every day it was purely on purpose.
It was pretty much the same thing. I mean, my thing was I got tired. I got worn out. I was just, we're talking about northern Norway where it was an hour and 15-minute drive from one gym to the other. And then for the third one, it was like a 4-hour drive and 3 ferry stops on the ferry. Yeah.
Why are you doing a gym crawl?
And it was work and travel and work and travel. And Snoopy and the babies. Yeah. And then work and travel. Oh yeah, Snoopy and the baby. And that whole thing about missing out on the family thing and then just being so tired and worn out.
You can't do those things.
Had to get out. Get out.
The successful businessman is probably skipping on his family. My mother was a super successful diplomatic career. Didn't get to spend much time with her kids. You have to sacrifice something if you're going to go for something.
You do, but the sacrifice, if you manage your business, if you're in the right kind of business, and if you manage it properly, it can bring you more freedom. It can. I'm making some moves with my podcast and a couple of media things and a couple other projects here and there. And if things go right, it's going to almost be to where I'm getting paid to just have fun. And that's the optimal situation. So it's doable.
But how long has that taken you to even have
there you go.
for that?
And that's where the sacrifice comes in. So yes, you have to sacrifice something. But I do believe that if you manage things right and if you have the right vision, then you can get to that point to where things kind of go of their own accord.
But some lean years to get a bit more.
Yeah.
But between zero,
but you got to do the work. You've got to do the work.
This point is a bunch of work. And
Absolutely.
That work is time that you could be doing a whole bunch of other things.
That's
so
very true. That's very true.
Give up some things.
That's very true.
You have to choose to give up some shit.
That's very true. Yeah. I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
But I have that vision. I'm 52 now. I look good, don't I?
Yeah.
52.
Pretty good, man.
52 now, and I want to be in that situation where the things I do are almost self-generating when it comes to finances, and I can just have fun.
Yeah.
That's my goal. By the time I'm 55.
So I'm 37.
Let's say 55.
I'm 37. I've gotten to the
My
point
wife asked how old you guys are. So you're 37?
36.
36. I had you both in your late 20s.
I know, right? Good.
I did. That's what I told her. I said, late
black don't
20s.
crack.
Oh.
Yeah, black don't crack. And this is original black. I'm filtered down, so I've got flaws. Sorry, Europe. I've got flaws. This guy is original black.
I've got my juju and strong and everything.
I was going to say, when people comment like, oh, you look so young, though, I just go like, yeah, no kids.
But you know what? You've got something there because, okay, I love my children to death. But if you're a good parent, you're going to direct a lot of thought.
Yeah.
Forget about the
stress.
Forget about the energy. I'm talking about the stress, emotions, and things like that. You're going to direct a lot of that to their lives, and that right there ages you to a certain extent.
It's like a presidency.
Now, Snoopy and our kids are now at the age where we know we've pretty much done everything right.
Yeah.
And it's just to keep sailing the ship in that direction, and our kids are going to be fine. Mm. But those first years, up until, I don't know, a certain age, it was so much worry, so much focus. Yeah. But again, I'll pat myself on the back, and Snoopy as well. We've done a good job, and our kids are going to be okay. But parenting? Yeah. Parenting is literally the toughest job in the world. I will always say that.
I've had a tiny hit of it because I used to work at a house for underage refugees that come to Norway. They have a permit to stay, but they don't have any legal guardians. Yeah. So basically, Child Protective Services took them over. And we had this house, and we basically ran this house, and we were being the surrogate parents. So I know what it's like to care about the well-being of a teenager, have them eye you with suspicion, and and I'm like, man, if that kid was your kid and you'd invested so much time and love into them, that would feel devastating. I think the teen years must be so rough because if there's anything about your kid, they're gonna start disrespecting you and pulling away.
I'll tell you this. A lot of people up through the years, they would say, "Oh God, you have so many lofty ideas, John. Wait till your kids are teenagers. Yeah. Reality is going to hit you in the face." Yeah. And I never let that affect me in the slightest bit because I was a thinker of looking at how my mother raised me. I know that she did the job when I was young. That's when most of the job was done. When from the time I was born. Mm-hmm. And all up through those, pre-teen years, that's when she did the work. So that when I became a teenager and I had more independence, I was more exposed to the world as much as I can be exposed in that little country town where I come from. By the time I got to that point, I was prepared to tackle those situations. So I always told myself, do the work now. I'm the kind of father who was talking to my daughter about men and boys and how they can try and take advantage of you. And she was 7-8 years old. Yeah. Of course, the discussion was adjusted. It was age appropriate, but I was having those discussions with her then. I was the kind of father having discussions with my son about, respecting women and being a responsible man and understanding your your limits and your potential. I was having those discussions with him, at a very young age. Again, age appropriate, but having those discussions to make them prepared so that by the time they're 18, I know my job is done. I know I've done what I had to do. That's my way of looking at it. So that all the stress happened before. Now I'm so relaxed when it comes to my children.
Those are the formative years. It's like an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, right? So.
Why don't you Google that? I think you messed that up.
Yeah. An ounce of prevention. An ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
I got my idioms down, man.
How do you
get on that mic, brother?
My sister's son is now 6.
Yeah.
So who I was playing with when I was in, who I went to visit, and I was sort of playing with my nephew a lot and bonding, and a constant conversation we have since he's been born is finding children's content in the West for Black kids.
Children's content in the West for Black kids. This goes back to. I'm jumping the gun. I'm assuming you're asking me what do I do?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. This goes back to what I was saying about how we filter, and I'll if we're watching a movie, I'll stop and take that teachable moment and present it to my kids. That's what I do. In other words, I've taken personal responsibility for making sure that my children understand the essence of themselves.
Don't just take it in uncritically.
Yeah, we live in Norway. Yes, it's 99.9% white. Yes, your mother has a strong influence on you, but you have a Black American father, so you are half that as well. And here it is. And I find every opportunity that I will say that I'm quite frustrated at times because they can come home from school and I ask them, what are you guys talking about at school this week? Oh, we're talking about slavery in the United States. And I'm just like, okay, sit down. What did they tell you? And it's never, I'm sorry. I have a lot of friends, and my best friend here in Norway is a teacher. And yes, neither one of you is my best friend, but sorry, no, but my
I paid a lot of money to come here,
John. No, but my best friend here in Norway is a teacher, and so I love teachers. I've been a teacher here in Norway. I love them. I love the work that they do, but I'm sorry they don't give an accurate or a full account of the Black American experience. They just don't. So I've taken that responsibility on myself. And I say that to any Black parent, whether you're a Black American parent or Black of African descent in Norway, you're going to have to take that responsibility on yourself to find both TV content, culture content. You're going to have to create those teachable moments yourself. One thing that we do at the dinner table, if I'm not trying out stand-up bits at the dinner table, I very often will talk about my experiences as the lone Black kid at my school, and put that in a context that can teach my children something about American society and American Blackness. So I've taken that responsibility upon myself because if you're Black and you're in Norway and you're just leaving the Norwegian society to teach your children about all things Black, it's not going to happen.
No, I borrow a lot. I mean, I think Black Americans definitely define cool for the world the last sort of 30, 40 years. Hip hop, American the African American sense of comedy. The Richard Pryors, Eddie Murphy, Bill Cosby, Red Fox, Patrice O'Neill.
It is often said. The most recent person who said it was Bill Burr, and he said it in a very funny context. But what he was saying basically is that if you are into any trends on social media or in society, if you're listening to any type of music. If you really think about it and you trace it back to its roots, it's Black.
Yeah.
It is Black.
One of the things that sort of...
I'm sorry, Black American. Black American.
Yeah. One of the things that me as an African has grown up in the world seeing is sort of I'm from the place that was whose history was robbed from us, right?
Yes.
My first history class is about a white man named David Livingston. That's my first history class. Literally my first history class.
All right, the first man in Africa.
Yeah, and I have to go to
man who discovered
exactly
Africa,
and,
right?
I have to grow up. I have to go to maybe one of 3 places in the world where I will learn about African history prior to the 1600s, right? And there's even studies. I think there's a mathematics professor named Ron Eglash who teaches people in the U.S. People of African American descent in the U.S. about ancient African culture and their legacy in math and sciences and so on, and finds that their grades actually shoot up. Now, studies on why grades shoot up are never definitive, but it's a pretty easy thing to say that if someone's self-esteem goes up, their ability to do work goes so it goes along with it. Anyway, my upbringing has always been sort of okay. It seems like we're all from Africa, but no one wants to talk about it. And every time we do talk about it, it's more in the context of what happened to Africa or what's wrong with Africa.
Right.
And there's so much sort of like history in Africa, and there's so many people who are way more well-spoken and have researched this topic much more than I have, who can sort of explain to you exactly the socioeconomic reasons why Africa is the way it is, right? But I think that for me, again, I just take all that shit up and I put it on stage. I just put it on stage.
Again, the therapeutic aspect of being an entertainer.
Yeah, because it's tiring. It's really annoying to go out to dinner and somebody be like, "Oh, I thought you were American," and that be a reason that they, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Fair enough. That's fine. Why do I have to think about this?
Exactly. People have such preconceived notions, and I addressed that in fact, when I first saw you at Steiner's, I believe I opened with that bit about walking through that part of Oslo and being approached by several what I believe were Nigerians, and I asked you if you were Nigerian. And it's touching on that preconceived notion about if you're black, or of African descent, you must have come from some sort of trauma, tragedy, and things must be better. And you have to, and that's a burden to have to explain that away.
It's like Roland G. Fryer. I think it was Roland G. Fryer who was teaching in I think it was Harvard. He became one of the youngest black economic professors in Harvard at one point, and he was I think he's quoted as saying,
wasn't it Princeton?
Was it Princeton?
Maybe I'm wrong. I wanted to say Princeton.
But I know it's Roland G. Fryer, and he's teaching somewhere, and he's one of the first and the youngest black economics professors in the school. And he was saying that one of the things that he was most annoyed about was being this feeling that he was being looked at as being asked as, so how come the rest of you can't do this?
Yes.
So how does it feel to not be a problem?
Yeah.
Because the rest of you are, right? And that shit is tiring.
It's very tiring. I get that a lot on social media.
How does it feel to not be a problem, or how does it feel to be a problem?
That's so fucked up to me that people grant you like honorary whiteness instead of taking you as an example that there's no big difference. We're all capable of the same.
Sometimes I have to check myself because I get overly defensive, aggressive at times. Sensitive to that thing where if someone says, "Oh, John, you're so integrated," and it's like, as opposed to what? And why do I have to be integrated? Maybe because to be honest, I haven't changed a damn thing.
Yeah.
And what have I integrated
I was going to say,
this is me.
I was going to say my ex-wife would be kind of annoyed about that. It's like, no, I'm not one of y'all. I got some better shit going.
It's this expectation sometimes to where you have to erase your individuality or your identity, your roots, in order to fit in, and it's tiring.
The only place I don't feel other, places where I don't feel other, or whether on stage I feel other, but I like it. I'm actually sort of playing with it and basking in it. But it's at work, right? When I'm at work and we're talking computers, we're talking IT, we're talking projects, we're talking any of that, I actually, like, it'll be like maybe at some point I'll be like walking and somebody looks at me funny in the building like, oh yeah, shit, I'm black, right? But most of the time I'm just going on, it's a meritocracy as far as my workplace goes, right?
Right.
Hey, when you see a woman in IT doing coding and stuff like that, do you think, oh, you must be good? Does that go right back?
I was raised by a single mother, so I'm used to seeing women doing awesome things.
I used to worry about if I got a compliment because of the work I did, if I got a compliment, are they saying this because it's really good work, or are they saying this that they think that I'm doing good work in spite of the fact that for
racism of low expectations.
And I used to really think about that, and somewhere along the line, and I'm saying I used to think about that after I came here to Norway. But somewhere along the line, and maybe it's been quite recent, like within the last 5 years or so, I decided, screw that. Why should I, let them be burdened with that? Why should I be burdened with that?
You guys are on the way out. Well, hopefully there's a new way of thinking coming up.
Because it is tiring, and I guess I didn't want to be tired of that anymore.
It is tiring. I think everybody has different strategies for sort of experiencing it. I know, like, the way that I articulate it is like, every once in a while I'll get black starved, and then I'll start dropping the N-word, like, in the wrong places to the wrong people, and I'm like, God damn it, I need to go hang out with some black people, get the N-word out of my system, and then I can come back and be like, yes, hi. But
how many Black Americans do you hang out with? Because there's not many of us around.
Not many here. Actually, in Norway, I don't hang out with a lot of black people at all. I'm looking at my photos and I'm like, God damn it, Anthony, I need more black friends in Norway. But when I travel, almost like in Geneva, almost like I think majority of my friends, not majority, I don't know, 80%, 60% of my friends are black.
Well, I use this to counter this narrative that some people try to create, that I'm anti-white. Because to a lot of people, the fact that I speak about racism means I'm anti-white for some reason.
And I use him. Well, all my friends here are like, I struggle to find black. Well, I use
that argument against people. I'm like, if you knew me, you're the first black guy I've sat and looked at and spoken to,
and he's looking at me sideways like this.
and probably I'm trying to think. Now I've had some black friends, Black Americans also on my podcast, but to actually sit and speak directly to a black person, I'm going to say that it has probably been a couple years, 2.5 years maybe. I may be wrong, but no one comes to mind. And that testifies to the fact that I just don't have that most of my friends, most of the people in my little circle, they're white.
What we're trying to say is some of our best friends are white.
I have this one white friend who,
I almost wanted to high road you there and be like, it shouldn't matter.
But I don't know. People kind of go to those. They pull those little arguments out of their pocket that, for anyone to speak, I've even seen them accuse white people of being against their own kind, because white people speak up against racism.
It's a misunderstood subject. It's a heavily misunderstood subject. I think the first thing anyone should do when they hear anything is, first of all, define some of those terms. And this is what we talk about we were talking about earlier with the discourse and being taught how to debate. Yeah. When you're taught how to debate, you're also taught to define your terms.
Yes. Yeah, and you have to do that at the beginning.
At the very beginning. Otherwise, what the hell are we talking about?
That's usually what I do when I get into a big conversation. I'm like, wait, what do you mean when you say...
And let's define some terms, right? And if you define racism in a conversation with someone, that conversation will be so much easier. Yeah. But if you start the conversation saying, I'm talking about racism and blah, that person's kind of like, wait a minute, am I under attack here? Who is it? What did I do?
I think a lot of Norwegians, if racism in Norway would look like a lynching, right? It's like, it's not talking to somebody being like, where are you really from? That's not a racist thing.
Norwegians really trip me out with their definition of racism, because I'll see somebody post something on social media. Well, my grandfather, who lived in Trøndelag, when he came down to Drammen and tried to get a house, they said no to him because he's from Trondheim. That's not racism.
No.
That's not racism. He did not get to, he wasn't refused that apartment or that house or that situation because of his race.
He was not discriminated against because of his skin color.
Exactly.
He was discriminated against because of his culture and values.
It's an internal Norwegian regional thing.
I'll bat that back. I'll bat that back to you a little bit though. Like Northern Europeans can have, say, racism towards Eastern Europeans, despite there not being a significant skin color difference because of certain expectations.
But that's not racism though. That's prejudice.
Fair enough.
So if it depends on whose academic definition we're taking, or practical definition we're taking, right?
We're
taking my definition.
Are we talking ethnicities?
All right. If we're gonna define make our own definition, right? Then we should be pretty clear on sort of what we mean, right? Now, if I'm from north of Norway and I'm white and I come down to south of to Oslo, for example, try to get an apartment, and somebody says, "Ooh, I don't rent to Northerners," right? Is he discriminating against my skin color? No, it's discriminating against me because I'm a Northerner, right? I don't date Northerners. Maybe less common to hear, but something that could be said. Is that the same as racism? I'm not. It's discriminatory, yes, but it's not
Without
the same grounds.
No, it's just discrimination on things you can't change about yourself.
True.
But that's not true. Hold on now. You can't change your essence. I mean, if you're from Finnmark, you're from Finnmark, but you can certainly work on changing your dialect.
Sure,
for example.
that's a big fucking ask if you ask me. Like, who the heck changes their dialect?
A lot of people.
I know. No, I know people do. I'm just saying that it's not for everybody.
Guys, let's just put it. Code switching is by default. We all code switch all day.
Yeah, sure. But that's totally different to switching. Like, listen, I'm the one who's grown up in Norway, and the appreciation I have for just how much dialects can change.
I'm in support, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Go a couple hours north, couple hours south, and it's like, okay, it's different.
Sure.
I'm not part of your tribe.
Right.
Absolutely.
And for me to switch over, I would feel so fucking weird. I already feel weird going on stage and changing certain words just so the Oslo crowd can get it. Right. I already feel weird about that. And I already get comments from people back home every once in a while. And it's like, oh, you said spisa. What the fuck's wrong with you?
So when I answer if I call a cab and I answer the phone and he's here, I go, "Hi, I come in, Ed." I am not going to use my black voice.
Right.
I don't want to scare him.
Well, you want to ride also.
I don't want to ride. Right. Yeah. If I'm at the office, I will not. I will keep the bass out of my voice.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm a black male, and if I make my point passionately, versus just make my point flat toned, I could be easily misinterpreted as being aggressive.
Sure. Well, you have to read the room. Right? Absolutely. We all do that.
But if Eirik makes the same point passionately, the chances of him being mistaken for aggressive are very, very little.
That's true.
Right? That's the beta cuck energy.
No, we all have to read the room and act accordingly. That. I think Norwegians use that term racism in a way too broad.
But okay, can I just
define it?
Just watch one little thing first though. Take for example Snoopy, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't get a place because she's Samisk. Then
that's
racism.
She speaks Østlandsk.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm just saying if she came down and somebody's like, "Oh, you're Samisk, you're not getting this place," then it's racism, right? Because they're a nation of people.
So racism, I think, is just. Can we define racism without using the word racism?
Yeah.
So it's somebody discriminating against you because of something you can't change about yourself.
Ethnicity, culture, is stuff that are just integral to your identity.
Where you're from, where you're born, what your skin color looks like,
language,
your hair color, your eye color,
right.
the language you speak.
Yeah.
The language, maybe not so much because you can change your language.
Fair enough.
Language, but say the how you look and where you come from physically, like biologically, right? If it's discriminating on you based on those things, then I think that's racism.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't matter whether you're the same color or a different color, but if you can be discriminated on something that you are, then that for me is racism. And that means that a white person in Norway can be raised in the south of Norway can be raised to a white person in the north of Norway because they're discriminating on them based on where they're from. And that's the thing. That's an attribute of that person.
Okay.
Right. So.
So whites can be racist against whites.
Whites can be racist against whites, and blacks can be racist against. But again, in this definition that I'm discriminating on you based on A, B, C, D. Yeah. Now, where the problem comes is when you start to then say, okay, how does that definition include people like, say, Derek Vaughan, who was that his name? Derek
Chauvin.
Derek Chauvin. How does that include Derek Chauvin? And how does that include, say, somebody who says something stupid like all black people are criminals, for example? Yeah. How does that same definition apply to those both extremes, right? Yeah. I think that's where the problem comes in. And for me, it's because the act of discrimination is commonplace.
Yeah.
How I discriminate, how extreme my act of discrimination is is a bit rare. Like it's very rare for somebody to go out of the way to kill a black. Rare.
Hold on now.
It's an extreme case. It's not the standard case of racism that you'll see. The standard case of racism typically ends up with a black person feeling annoyed and not dead.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Or the person who's discriminated against being annoyed or suffering some sort of a hurt, but not being dead.
Yeah.
And I think that's true across the board.
Yeah.
The problem is most people is that the idea of racism is that it's only when somebody is leaning on your neck and you can't breathe, it's because he's black that I'm doing that.
But that's why I focus on the systemic portion of the racism.
Yeah.
To me, it's truly racism when there is a systemic backing of that.
So let's define systemic now. Let's drink our own Kool-Aid. Yeah.
No, it's an example of systemic racism is redlining.
Right.
In Chicago, for example, a system that was put in place to make sure that black people could only buy homes in a certain area.
Right.
It's systemic racism when we see that the legal system is far from balanced. You see different outcomes for the same crime. That is a systemic issue.
That's systemic.
It's systemic when we see it in the educational levels, not just in America, but also in Norway, in other countries where if you're brown or black or non-white, you're going to be met with challenges that are above and beyond what those native white European students will face. That's a systemic thing.
Yeah.
And I believe that when racism is practiced under the umbrella of a certain system, it's undeniable racism. But you can question the motives of the individual. And that's why I'm not that very focused on trying to do much. I don't think there can be done much with racism on the individual. You can't change people's minds. That's very hard to do.
My thoughts on this is that humans are pretty fancy, but our hardware is old as fuck, right?
Yeah.
And it's not meant for the kind of society we're in now, we're global village, right? It's meant to be like, oh, somebody's coming over the hill, they're probably a danger, right? So our brains are still, I don't think our brains are well made to make nice with everybody who are different.
Well, we have that primitive part of our brain that's been there since day one.
Yeah.
I disagree.
That
the
makes
reptile
us
brain?
lean.
I disagree.
Well, but it makes us lean.
What I said?
Well,
It's an exposure thing.
And I don't.
No, I'm not saying it's the only thing.
I don't agree either. But I guess I want to back up because I don't agree with that half that says that we have our primitive brain and that's what rules. We have our primitive brain that leads us towards tribalism, but we have social conditioning, and social conditioning can be a positive thing. Social conditioning leads us to feelings of compassion, feelings towards understanding, the desire for dialogue that can combat that initial primitive reaction. Oh, he or she looks different than me. I need to be wary.
Right.
That is there.
I don't want to be construed as having said though that the main driver is or that it's completely something we can't do anything about. I hate that kind of fatalist nonsense, right? Okay. But we have to check ourselves, and I don't think we're going to evolve away from that anytime too soon. Like I think racism to some extent or otherization, it's going to be with us.
I think it's purely a matter of exposure. I think if you look at kids who especially like if you look at, there's a great book on the subject is I find the name. It's a great book. She's a PhD sociologist who studies issues of race, and it's White Kids and Racism. I think it's called. I'll find the title, but it's basically a book about how the children of well-off white parents form ideas and reproduce ideas about racism.
Interesting.
A great book, and she's she's a white woman studying these kids, following them to school, following them to practice, following them to camp, being in the back of the class, and just trying to sort of understand where and when they pick up, learn, or reproduce ideas of racism or not.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the things she's found is that if you just have the same kid in a room with Black, Asian, Mexican, whatnot, for that same amount of time, those same ideas are just not there. The chances to reproduce racism come up, but there's also a lot more reinforcements to inform. Right. Another great study looked at I think it was toddlers, kids between 4 and 6, or 4 and 8, and they were like, for the 4-year-olds, I think for the 3 to 4-year-olds, the test was how drawn they were to certain types of faces.
Okay.
Because kids, it's a common study to see that one of the earliest studies they used to establish this was to see if kids like pretty things versus ugly things more, right?
Yeah.
So normally, children of all ages, babies, toddlers, we all have a preference for symmetry and beauty, right? It's built into our brains somehow. And you can also test for racial bias in this way in 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. They'll either gravitate to somebody whiter or blacker or that looks more like them. And in most cultures, the kids will gravitate to somebody that looks more like them.
Yeah.
Right? And
that's that primitive brain, I believe.
That's the primitive brain. Yeah. But if that same kid has been exposed to variety of people that look that look different, that same bias is now gone.
And there's the social conditioning I was talking about.
So I don't think it's a problem of our brains. I don't think it's about I think otherness. I think the idea of otherness being a scary thought as primitive to our brain means I can't tell my brain, hey.
And that's what I was getting at.
Who are you? Can I get to know you now?
And that's what I was getting at. Because
after I've gotten to know you, does my primitive brain still feel that way?
The primitive brain is there, but then you have social conditioning, and that social conditioning can either enhance that feeling of otherness, or it can enhance the feeling of inclusiveness and the curiosity about the otherness.
Yeah. So I do think we have meat sack brains. We're definitely meat sack brains. But I don't think it's a fault of the hardware. I think it's a fault of the software not being given the right instructions.
Thing is, how would you create a society where they get the exact kind of exposure?
Jane Elliott. Easy. She's already done it.
Sure. No, but let's say you're in a part of Norway where there's not a lot of variety, right?
Jane Elliott did that experiment in a classroom with only white kids. She just used blue and brown eyes as a difference.
But I thought you said you need to if they get exposure before 4 or 5.
Yeah, but so Jane Elliott is able to. So
do you know who she is?
Yeah. He's been talking about it.
So it's either exposure or actually exposing you to discrimination.
But with her, right, that's you do that afterwards, right? And you do the experiments afterwards when they're already grown up and they can actually talk and understand things, right? They're teenagers or whatever, right?
No, dude, have you seen the blue eyes experiment? You have to see this. They're actually
you've shown me a video. I saw somebody cry and freak out. Yeah, but they weren't like
that was I showed you a clip from the BBC episode.
Yeah,
and that was like the one that went viral. But that was the BBC episode she's doing with like university students. When she initially came up with the idea, it was to her second and third graders in the U.S. After Martin Luther King was shot, and in her classroom she asked about do you guys understand what happened? And one of the kids said, one of the N-word guys had to be shot because of something. And she was like, whoa, hold the fuck up. I have to address this shit. None of my kids are gonna have this attitude, right? So she then says, how do I educate this all white classroom on why discrimination is such an evil, insidious thing? So she came up with this blue-eyed brownness experiment. And that being exposed to discrimination and that level, at that alone is enough to get those kids to actually, even 30 years later, right? On paper, be measurably
it's quite the effect on one's life.
The thing is just that's after they've gone through a rearing period where it's like, okay, if they're already drawn to certain faces, that's already in place, right? And then she comes and shocks them with that, and it can have a changing effect, right? Right, it can make them check their own biases and stuff like that, and having a good effect. Yes, sure. I don't feel like I'm a dyed-in-the-wool racist or anything either, but I do know, for example, if when I was on the West Coast and I'm not, it's very, very fucking white there, and I go to the mall, and all of a sudden I see a gaggle of 5 Somali guys and they're talking their own language. There's a tiny ass part of my brain that goes, man, they're polluting our airwaves with that air. It's like there's a small part of my brain that thinks that. I feel like I can't eradicate that.
I always want to tell Somalis to be quiet. They talk so loud.
Bit,
So if I'm on a tram and I see 4 Somali guys over there, I probably think the same thing. If there's 5 Norwegian guys drunk and belligerent over here, I'm hoping they don't rape someone tonight. if there's a bunch of blonde, blue-eyed white girls over there, I'm hoping they don't do something stupid and call somebody racist or dance on the table. Everybody has these stereotypes of people, right? But the problem is, at least I think for the most people, at least for me, for all those guys, I have an informed opinion on what they really are like. Because I have a Somali friend, I have a white male Norwegian friend, and I have a white.
But see, I want to check you on something you said. You say everybody has these stereotypes, but I don't believe that.
You don't think they're stereotypes?
I don't know if I'm better than you. No, no, but I can. I can.
He's got some good slaps in today, I
feel. I'm from Africa. We made them. My ancestors just looked at his ancestors and were like, brah.
Hey, I will admit I'm watered down.
You're slamming the source code, bro.
And so the question is did I hold on to the good qualities or did I lose the good qualities? I'm still trying to figure that out.
That's why he has me over here trying to get it back. He's like, dog, I've lost all the juju magic. Help me out.
Why would you want that when you're already honorary white?
Oh gosh,
he's losing the hips. You can't dance anymore.
But this thing where everybody, I'll hear people say, everybody has a little bit of a racist, or everybody is a little bit prejudiced. I don't believe that. I believe that there are people. I mean, I can look at that group of Somali guys, and I guess I need to qualify because
Let me clarify. I'm not saying that that everybody has whatever, or what I'm saying is that stereotypes exist, prejudices exist, and because of the world we live in, they will be
They're not all negative stereotypes.
No, they're not all negative, but they're not all positive. Anyway, the point is, for example, TV. Yeah. Right? We tell stories about caricatures and not characters mostly, or we'll have one character and lots of caricatures. And so most of the time, we will often try to communicate who someone is very quickly using very very short ideas, right? And we will communicate values and so on throughout our lives in very TV, movies, books, whatnot. And so we will have lots of ideas about things in our heads. For example, when I was in India. I was like, what are the chances that an Indian person has met an African person before me? And I looked it up. There are 60,000 black Africans living in India. So current 1.3 billion Indians. It was like 0.000056% chance that they had met an African before me.
Yeah.
Right? But statistically speaking, right? So prior to meeting me, when would they have had a chance to examine a preconception they have about black people?
Yeah. What's been there to challenge the stereotypes?
Nothing, right? And that's what I mean by there'll always be stereotypes, but if you have no reference, if you don't have a friend from that culture, you don't have.
That's true. That's like going. That's going back to when Snoopy said there's no racism in Norway because she didn't have any reference.
Exactly.
I got you. I got you. No, we've been talking for 2.5 hours. I had planned to cut it off at 2 hours.
Yep.
And I could talk forever with you guys, but it's all about my physical capabilities. I'm in so much pain I'm getting another operation 1st of September.
No.
For what?
It goes back to my shoulder. Now I had this neck operation. They pretty much cut my head off and fixed a vertebrae that I didn't even know was messed up, and then put my head back on. Seriously, they sliced open and took out some bone structure and put a fake vertebrae in my neck.
Yeah.
And we were hoping that was the source of all the pain I have in my shoulder, but it's not. It's my shoulder. Okay. So now on the 1st of September, they're going to go in my shoulder. They're going to do a biopsy to see if there's any infection. They're going to look at things for the possibility of me having a shoulder prosthetic. Okay. Totally new ball and socket joint in there.
So I'm in a similar process for my knee. I was diagnosed with.
Come on, man, you're too young for that.
That's exactly what I said. I went to my doctor.
37, right? Come on.
My knee was this big, so I was an athlete. I was an athlete as a kid, right? You name it.
I am better than you. I'm 52 and I'm still an athlete. You stop being that. Oh, there we go. Got it now.
But I'm smarter than you. I write code.
Mr. Tech. Got me there. He writes code.
I will automate your job away.
So what? I better stop talking shit. Oh my God! I think you won. No, but so what happened to your knee now?
So
because this is interesting to me.
Because when I was doing a lot of running and whatnot, and I had something to do with my cartilage. It's a common thing with knees. Your lower cartilage, and at the time they were recommending cartilage replacement.
Okay.
And I had one when I was 19, and I recovered. Carried on doing sports and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a fairly non-invasive. Yeah. I mean, it's invasive, but you can recover and be athletic after.
3 holes.
Yeah.
Machine up and down. But eventually I recovered. Yeah. Started playing ball, martial arts and so on. And then 35, I think. I played ball one summer, and my knee was this big. I went to the hospital, and they're like, it's like, your knee is old. And I'm like, I'm sorry, bro. I've been to school for like 16 years.
Was this an African hospital?
This is here in Norway.
This is here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm like, can you use bigger words, please? And he goes,
no, he says your knee is old.
Yeah.
I was thinking.
I'm like, no, I need you to use bigger words, please.
Didn't you go like, but I'm too young? And he goes like, yeah, but your knee is old.
But your knee is old.
He says you have osteoarthritis of the right knee.
Wow.
And I'm like, aren't I a bit too young for that? And he goes,
That's
yeah,
incredible.
but your knee's old. And
No, but that's very interesting at that age to have that kind of a problem.
And it's only in the right knee. And they were like, yeah, we got to cut it out. You have 2 years left in it. And I was like,
wow.
What? But this was like 3.5 years ago. So, but now I'm getting a second opinion, and we're going to find out whether
I was going to say, get that second opinion, because very often surgeons are so eager to cut when other things
and they were like, we'll cut and see. And
yeah.
I was like, no, bro. No.
Exploratory surgery?
I've lost track of how many shoulder surgeries I've had. I think I've had 7 or 8.
Yeah.
7 or 8. And it's you see, as I've been sitting the whole time, I really should have a sling. Because the pressure, the weight of my arm hanging down is just. Really? So I think they're going to do a artificial shoulder. That's what I want, actually. Yeah. Get everything out of there. Stop this little piecemeal thing. Yeah. Get everything out of there. Replace it all.
Just start with the cybernetic program.
Oh God, because I'm just. It's too much. That's the reason why I haven't done stand-up for a year, because I don't have the energy, and it's so much pain to just stand there for 5, 10, 15 minutes on a mic.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more about Robopod.
Robopod with John Allen.
John Allen.
The mechanical version.
I was like, did I space out at some point? Miss out on a promo?
Well, speaking of promo, as we wind this up, what's coming up for you guys?
No actual real announcement yet, but I'm trying to do something on the 10th and the 17th of August. I think he's got something at Salt.
Yeah, on the 10th of August, I got Salt. That's just a low. I don't think that's in the smallest place there, Pyramiden, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And
he's
then
really selling it.
Yeah, small and significant.
No, don't. Comma, don't.
It's where I'm going to try new shit. And then on the 18th, I'm standing at Uhørt, which is this place down in Strøke in Oslo. So that's pretty much all I got booked. That, and I think I'm coming to Drammen in 1st of September. Jon said that
I will be under the knife on that day, so think of me.
All right.
So that's pretty much everything, man. But me and him, when we went to Bergen, they were being really nice and complimentary, and they were like, next time you come over, you should, hit up the right people. You can get like 4 mics in a row,
Yeah.
So. Why don't you guys do a tour together? I was kind of halfway joking, talking about the Eirik and Anthony show.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good radio program or something. But why don't you guys just do a tour?
That's why I'm shaking. No, it's
we're gonna wind this up.
My day job is crazy right now. So, and it's my career as well. I really only thought stand-up would just be a hobby. I didn't realize it'd be as much fun and go, anywhere beyond just me,
no chance of you taking a leave of absence from your job, and
I could probably talk to my because I love my job because people know who I am, really, so they know I do stand up and they know and whatnot. But it's definitely what I'm married to. It's definitely what I when I wake up in the morning. It's that first, and then when I've sort of got some time off, then I can do some stand up. But it's a good problem to have when you have to be like, hey, should I sacrifice something to go get more?
Right.
It's a good problem to have.
Stand-up isn't my number one thing, but I do miss it. God, I miss it. And I see everybody out there having such a good time, and I just miss being there, man. I do.
Our big thing, big thing on our itinerary would be like next summer, we're thinking of both going to New York and hitting up as many mics as we can there. Yeah, right.
Do that.
Going to the Mecca of stand-up.
First of all, I'll say this. You guys, even though you would be unknown out there, you guys would get the time on the mic because you're from Norway.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, God, we got to hear this. Yeah. And then, fail or succeed, but you would at least get on the mic, and it would definitely be a growth, a period of growth, definitely a learning experience.
That's you can do what? We talked about this last time, but New York is going to be like level up.
3-4 times in a day. Jesus Christ.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming on. This has been very giving for me. I've been first because of Corona, and then because of losing my son, and then because of health reason, I've been so isolated, kicking out podcast episodes, but it's just not the same when people are on a video screen.
Yeah, it is.
So I thank you guys. You guys have truly blessed my life today. I mean that in all seriousness. You have truly
right back at you.
blessed my life for coming. I love you both. I respect you guys' minds and your comedy. So thank you for coming on and doing my show. Nothing but love for both of you.
Thank you for having us, man.
And for you out there watching, I want you guys to check these guys out. I'm going to link to their social media profiles. Check them out. Please support them if you have the opportunity to do that. Support them in any way you can. If you want to support me on the Coming On podcast with John Allen, you can find me at my website, which is www.johnallenpod.com. You can also look in the description of this episode, whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening to it on a podcast platform of your choice. You look in the description, you'll see a couple of 3 links where you can give a contribution if you like to support my work here. It's not necessary, but it's definitely appreciated. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Bye now.
Cheers.